Good morning, Catherine. Catherine, unmute your mic.
Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Okay, I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. All is well.
Okay, very well. You are welcome to today's training, and I also take this opportunity to invite our participants on today's topic: strategies of increasing employees' performance. So, hope you are ready, Catherine. You are?
I'm putting on my mic. I'm ready. How are you? Tell us something about the week. Tell us something about COVID in your context and how you fared in terms of performance. How does that go for you as an individual? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Catherine.
Okay.
I hope our participants can hear you as well.
I think they can, yeah. Great. Okay.
So for those who had not joined us, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to today's training on strategies for improving employee performance. This is a webinar. Remember, there is the Government of Kenya instructions on restricting meetings due to COVID-19 pandemic. And so we are taking this training online via Zoom, and we've been doing so since the onset of COVID-19. You realize we don't do free Zoom trainings because Zoom as a platform is a paid for service. We had to acquire a license so that we can learn a training. We can do a training that is beyond 40 minutes. You find a lot of organizations doing 1 hour trainings, free webinars. What you would realize, mainly, the trainings are 40-minute meetings. Zoom provides for free meetings. And from the latest ACHRP directive, you've realized that for a CPD program to be recognized, it has to be for at least 6 hours for a 2 CPD program. So we try as much as possible to meet that criteria. We might not do the 6 hours, all right, but we try to do an intensive training so that we meet the ACHRP criteria. And as you would realize, CPD points belong to ACHRP. ACHRP is a sponsoring agent licensed as such by ACHRP to conduct what? To conduct CPD programs. Every year since 2017, we usually pay for our calendar CPD for a full calendar CPD programs. Say for instance, in January this year, we paid 435,000 for what? For the 2020 CPD programs. After subjecting them for approval by ACHRP, a total of 21 programs. So feel free to participate in our programs and notice that we try as much as possible not to waste time for our participants. Thank you. And Catherine, you ready? Catherine?
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much, Dan, and thanks for facilitating and for
hosting.
Yeah, thanks for hosting. Yeah, that's the term. Yeah.
Karibu.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to a real good interactive session this morning with the participants. I'm sure we've met some of them, and maybe some of them it's the first time they're logging in. It's always a pleasure to facilitate trainings at ACHRP. I think the Academy has done a remarkable job just to put together HR practitioners drawn from various sectors, and the main aim is to learn. Just apart from earning CPD points, then we should be able to say that we are here to learn and to get better at what we do, sharpen each other, be able to build networks that we can call upon when we have questions or when we have challenges, but also when we have things to complement each other. I think it's a great platform for us to be able to interact. So thanks, Dan, for the hard work that you do in the background to make sure that this is happening. So a very warm welcome to you. And I know that this is something that is really profound for all of us, especially during this corona virus pandemic, in the area of performance. How are we gauging performance at our workplace? That is something that I want us to really carry away today. In terms of since March up to now, the one question I keep hearing and people keep calling me and saying, Catherine, how you evaluating performance at your place of work? How is it going? So what will we do with the drivers? What will we do with the office receptionist? What will we do with the people who serve as tea, who are as important as the CEO? So these are really profound questions, and they cannot be washed away. They're things that we need to keep discussing. And at the end of the year, if let's say whatever end of the year calendar that you follow, how are you going to evaluate performance, given that most of us now are working from home, if you're not in the essential services, and also at the same time, are there some KPIs that you have to adjust because of the COVID-19? But overall, going forward, what do we want for ourselves as individuals, and what do we take back to the institution? So that's what we'll really look into today. I hope that it will be interactive. I'm the kind of person who will call up someone. I can see the names on the screen. So I'll call Angeline, I'll call Anthony, I'll call Christine, I'll call Gordon, I'll call Marcy, I'll call everyone, And so let's share experiences and let's share the learnings. I think that's very important. So as Dan has introduced me, my name is Catherine Wamwangi. I'm a HR practitioner. I also I have a finance background and a strategy background. I'm also an executive coach. So I'm certified, and I also lecture at the College of HR. So if you are doing your ACHRP, you might find me there teaching you either strategy or coaching, something that I really love. And I also love training. I love facilitating training. And all of us can be trainers. I'm sure you train one way or another through your everyday interactions in your department or in the greater community. So that's me, and I believe that we'll continue interacting. So I'd like, how many are we now? We are 11. Just to set the pace in terms of share our expectations for today's webinar. What are you hoping to take away? What are the great learnings, or what are you really looking at achieving for the next couple of hours that we'll be together? So I would like to open the floor to anyone. Anyone? Anyone who would like to tell us what they would like to, what their takes for today are?
Mercy.
Hi, Mercy. Good morning. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
I would say my take home will be to try and understand, just from the way you've said, how is it that me as a HR practitioner, me as a HR advisor in the organization, how I will be able to know how to adjust some of the KPIs, some of the targets, especially in this period of COVID-19, and especially also in the future, if something like this, not necessarily COVID-19 happening, but in terms of emergencies, what if there are certain things that maybe they're out of my control and forces people to operate in unique ways?
Yeah, very important. Operating in unique ways. The snowball has been turned to you, and things have really changed. And they could change internally. I like what Mercy you're saying. They could change internally, and they could also change externally. And that's what we have said, that the external forces have really changed. What are we looking at? All of a sudden, HRs were forced to look into myriad of things, from medical to WeBars to travel. How do we protect our people? And the one mantra that we are all talking together as HR is safety first. So that's very important. And of course, unfortunately, is that some businesses have been affected more than others. That's not to say that we are not, we are cognizant of that. And how do we spring back during that time? Maybe it's just a downturn as we try and strategize, put our business plans together, because then that industry, let's take the aviation industry, let's take the hospitality, really taking a downturn. How are we going to get back to make sure that we are top of our game again? Yeah. So thank you, Mercy. Very warm welcome. You come from which industry?
NGO sector.
The NGO sector. Yeah. So where you get money first and then you use it, compared to the corporates where they have to sell a service or a product and then they get money. So it's really, and I'm sure because I plug a lot in the NGO world as well, I know that there's a lot of discussion around how do we sustain our funding? What are the funders saying, and how do we make sure that we're implementing the program? So yeah. Thank you, Mercy.
Yeah.
Someone
Thank
else?
you.
I see Julia, I see Kate, Joyce, Gideon. Everybody, expectations, Christine. Anybody? Asashi?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, my name is Anthony Moura. I'd say my expectation today is to rather discover innovative strategies on how, as HRs, we can improve employee performance. And not only that, innovative ways that we can motivate our colleagues, our employees, because I believe they are all important, because they play various roles that are equally important to our organizations. And also because COVID has put us into a situation where we are forced to not only be innovative, but creative as well.
Exactly.
So that is what I would like to take home from this training. Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, innovative ways for us to be able to increase our performance, look at performance, what's happening around. Yeah, very, very profound, very important. A good takeaway in terms of what are some of the discussions. And I keep on saying is that we all know these things. There's nothing that we are not doing, but what is one thing that we can take away today for us to be able to look at the bigger factor and say, this might work for my organization? We might discuss things and say, well, those things might not work for my organization, but how creative, how agile are we willing to be? And sometimes you say, oh, well, the organization might not listen to me, and but let me get the skill. But be brave enough to go in and say, well, I think based on where we are right now, we can do this and this and this. Let us try. Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep communicating until your agenda is taken up, and you run with it, and it becomes your success factor. I keep on saying the one thing that you want to leave in any organization is a legacy, where you come and say, oh, Catherine worked here. Yes, Catherine worked here, and this is one of the things that she did. You know, we miss her. We would love to have her back. But once you go and people forget about you, then it's a bit, it can be a bit disappointing. You know, you can't do everything, but you have if you have a position that you can influence, and everybody has an opportunity to influence policy at their level, no matter what position that you hold in the organization. Okay, someone else. Thank you, Anthony. Someone else. I'm trying to share my screen. So, yeah, someone else. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I can.
Good. Okay, great. Someone else in terms of expectation? Julia, I see you in this seminar. Anybody else? Expectations? Joyce, Linda, Paul, Kate? Anybody else? Strategies for improving employee performance? Okay, great. I'm sure we'll continue that discussion as we go along. Okay, so who are employees? Who is an employee? Worldwide, who is an employee? Are you an employee? When you think about who is an employee? Come on, guys, do you have your cup of coffee around with you? Who is an employee? I'm waiting. I'm like a teacher now, not a facilitator. I'm marking. Angeline, Christine, who is an employee? Any thoughts around it? We have many definitions of an employee in the labor law, in the Employment Act. Anyone? Then who's an employee? Maybe you can start off for us. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to be, I don't know whether I'll get it right, but an employee is someone engaged to do work for a wage or for a consideration.
Great. A wage or a consideration. What is a consideration? Utanilipa na mandizi at the end of the day? Ama utanilipa na maembe?
I'm trying to think that sometimes there might be a cadre of employees or people engaged to do work, not necessarily for money, but for some consideration, maybe offsetting a debt.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. For a consideration. It could be barter trade. You remember those long time ago when there was barter trade? You do work for me, I give you this. Yeah, so an employee. Yeah. Gamefully, who has a contract, you know, whatever kind of contract that you hold in an organization or in a structured place, then that is important. The people that you employ in your homes, in your businesses, those are your employees, and there's a consideration of a wage at the end of the month, or at the end of the day, or at the end of the week. So just depending on the kind of contracts. And it is very important. And why I'm asking this question and emphasizing on it is because we need to be extremely careful during these COVID times, the kind of employees that we have in organization. We need to define everybody, and the ones that really are core, we need to make sure that they have the right contracts. Then the ones whom you have not really defined in your organization, are they casuals? Do they stand at the gate every morning to come in in a casual way? Then you also need to define them. Do you need them now? And when they are coming in, what are you doing about it? Why I'm saying that is because at the end of the day, with your business continuity, if one of you was to contract COVID, what is your tracing mechanism? What's your contact tracing? Because right now we've seen that we have moved from mass testing, we're in target testing. And for the last couple of maybe 3 months, three weeks now, sorry, is that the numbers have continued to rise. And where are they rising? They're rising at the workplace, isn't it? We all know now, every time I ask, you guys have a case of COVID? Yes, we have a case of COVID. How many people? Yesterday, I was with my friend, and she told me that out of the 40 people who were tested in the organization, 29 of them have COVID. So the question begs, what are we going to do? And where I'm asking whether you, who is an employee, is that, are you going to give them leave days? Are you going to pay for their testing? Are you going to make sure that all the people they came to contact with, are you going to trace them? Are they going to be traced? And what's going to happen? So it's just too complicated right now at the workplace in terms of being an employee and what you're going to do to the employee should they get COVID, and how you're going to manage that sick of time from the organization, and how at that time you're going to talk about performance. You see how it all goes into the value chain. You know, I come in, I'm supposed to be performing, and then all of a sudden I am sick. You don't know, everybody's recovery journey in COVID is very different, because some 2 weeks I'm back. Do you want to test me again? Is it necessary for you to test me? Or 2 weeks isolation, I am fine, I come back. Who will take up the next the second testing expense? I come back, I'm okay. So okay, I continue as normal. And maybe I'm someone who does not need very minimum supervision. I am self-serving, I'm motivated, I move on, and it's behind me. Then comes someone else who is out for a month or so. They are a critical role. They hold a critical role in the organization. They are out because of whatever. You don't have succession planning. Performance is hindered. So what are we talking about? So it's for you to make sure that you have mapped out your critical positions. Succession planning cannot be emphasized more during this time of COVID than what should be done right now. It's urgent. It should be on your plate. If it's not on your plate, please write it down and start your succession planning tomorrow. Business continuity. And then from there, how are you going to make sure that these people are ready? How are you going to get their performance to make sure that they are going on to the right path in terms of making sure that your business does not suffer? So those are some of the strategies that you need to put in place. If you've not put them in place, then start thinking about it. Just take pen and paper, map out, your business continuity, map up the risk. That is something that you need to do. Keep on mapping the risk every day in terms of your employees, because now COVID is at the workplace. And I know that there are some organizations, and maybe you can attest with me, is that it's not even necessary for people to go to the office, but they have told everybody they have to come to the office, and just put very scrumpy policies, around return to work, whatever, not implied, they're not giving out masks. They have, they could have sanitizer, they could have soap and water, but the social distancing is not something that you would be comfortable having. So do not allow your employees, even from top level, to sit with discomfort. Because I'm scared of losing my job during this COVID time, I can honestly work from home, but everybody has been told to work from home. So last weekend, I like to give examples, is that what happened? A CEO who is kind of who is not empathetic, let me put it like that, is not endearing to people, is feared by people. So COVID happened. That 1 week we all went home. We started working from the office. A month later, everybody threw caution to the wind. April, people started getting fatigued and they started going back to the office. So because the CEO comes, who am I not to come?
isn't it? And remember, it's the fired CEO who is not approachable at all. It's her way or the highway. So they come in the office and everybody says, well, the CEO has gone back. I think it is time to go, including this, the HR. How unfortunate that the HR cannot even go and say, maybe it's not the right time for people to come. The ones who do not want to come, let them not come. Because we know you could have a pre-existing condition, but maybe you could also, even if it's not you who has a pre-existing condition, where you live at your home, you might have people who have pre-existing conditions, and you might have also someone who has a chronic illness, or maybe just you have a small baby, a small infant. Those are not people who want to be exposed to you going to the office, maybe even with public transport, or even if you have your own private car, and coming back home. It is now just too dicey in terms of that. Anyway, people went. And that is that organization I am telling you that last week, they got 29 people with COVID. So those are real case studies that we are seeing, people not being empathetic and people not listening enough, just policies being out in the air, hot air as I call them, they're just implied. You know, they are good to have, but we are not actualizing and putting them in practice. And what has happened is that my friend was telling me performance is at an all-time low. So people are just coming in because we have to. I have to protect my job, but it's one leg in, one leg out. So how you manage people during this COVID time is an indication of how you will come out with a new normal. Anyway, this is the new normal. We are not going back. I mean, this is what's going to be. So if you're in a position of people not coming to the office, and the only thing that now you're banking on is the currency of trust. If you'll not take anything else out of this workshop for all of us today, the currency you're banking on now for performance is trust. There's nothing else. You expect me to be at my home working, and you expect me to perform. And we'll talk about how to surrogate some of those duties for people, for drivers and for office admin, people who really have to be in the office. What can we do about them? And I'll give you some of the things that we have done at my workplace that we want to make sure that everybody's engaged. And I'm talking from a point of being very privileged right now. And honestly, being that I am lucky, and I know not many of us, we know friends, we know relatives, I know very close, even my siblings have lost jobs. You get what I mean? But I'm talking from a point of my organization. The first thing that happened is that we said we are going to retain every job that we have. Guess what? Even the interns are still there. And since COVID started till now, I have been able to bring in 10 people in the organization globally. And I can tell you that there are some positions I have seen that they are hard to bring in right now, especially the engineering people, the marine engineers. But that is the first thing that the CEO said, Catherine, we must protect every job. But also maybe we are privileged because we are in the IT and telecom industry. So if I was, I can imagine maybe if I was in the hospitality industry or in the aviation industry where I started, maybe that I would be talking something different. You get what I mean? And that's why I said I am talking from a point of being privileged, and I'm talking with a lot of humbleness around just protecting jobs, because I know that is not what is happening everywhere. So what has happened in my organization is that because of just that, the CEO fasting on the 17th of March, when we had a global meeting on Teams, the first thing after we had our briefing as senior management team, he came and said, the first thing I will want to say is that we will communicate, we'll have a communication strategy, and the one thing that I want to reassure everybody here is that your jobs are safe. So get what happened. Okay, people had a sigh of relief. You know, we have looked at the balance sheet. We can keep jobs for the next 12 months. We are going to be all out. And that the month of April, we had our highest closure of sales year to date for the last 5 years. So even when he was coming in and saying, well done, the salespeople, so in the engineers have to cut over, there was a lot of motivation and a lot of a lot of trust that people can work from home. Of course, we've had one or two people who are a bit lazy. Nevertheless, that you'll always have that. But I'm talking about really good leadership, how it impacts performance. So things like that. And I'm sure some of you can attest to that. If there's anybody who would like to share, please share so that we go learning. And you see, a bad case gone bad and a good case gone well. You know, anybody who would like to share? Anybody? Please unmute yourself. Or maybe
Hello
just,
again.
yeah.
Yes, I can attest to what you said about good leadership, because from my organization, our CEO, from the time COVID started to date, he still insists that people who do not need to be in the office, they should stay at home. Apart from that, the measures that our organization has put into place, you know, we get face masks every day, sanitizers are everywhere. And of course, being in the public sector, we are guided by, you know, what the government says. So for us, I can say, not only are we guided by the public service leadership, but our CEO is very strong in reminding people that they should be safe, and they should always take care of themselves. And if they really do not need to be in the office, then they really don't. And we've seen that being implemented, because I have not seen some people in some departments for months because they really do not need to be in the office.
Okay.
But but apart from that, also every week we meet virtually via Google Meet. We have a prayer day for us.
Wow.
All employees are invited. So you see that also gives us that sense of being together, but being apart at the same time.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That's really good. And in terms of how have you seen, so when you say that you don't have to come to the office, do they have to work from home?
Yes. People,
they're expected to work from home.
People are expected to work from home, and of course they are given targets. And for meetings and reviews of certain kinds, it's done virtually.
Okay. And how have you seen in terms of just a general, you can get a gut feel from a people's perspective. Do people, have you seen increased performance or decreased performance, or it's just at the level that it was?
Not only increased performance, I can say whenever I've seen people pop into the office, they seem more happy. I mean, the fact that they get to work at home and they're around family and all that, I think it impacts also onto their motivation levels and also their happiness as well. So that comes out,
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'll throw in a joke that, of course, that the best place to be working right now is in the government sector, because your salaries are assured. You know, every civil servant. Oh my gosh, you have vacancies, Anthony, for me to come.
Unfortunately, we filled them recently, so
I mean, that's the best place. So, I mean, the assurance of get a salary at the end of the month. This is the one time
I'd say
it's really nice.
We are blessed.
Yeah,
yes,
it's true. Yes. Yeah, it's a privilege. That's what I keep on saying. So even the teachers who complain and the policemen who complain about the lack of adequate pay, I mean, nobody's grumbling now. Everybody's happy for now. So
that's true. That's true.
It's a good thing. Yeah. So well done.
All
Anybody else? No. Another good case of what, and of course the thing is that most of the guidelines have actually come from the public sector, from the government, the guidelines from the Ministry of Health. So even when people ask me, Catherine, please share with me a return to work guideline, I say, which work? When did we stop working? You get what I mean? It's just enhancing and providing the equipment that the government has said that we provide. You get what I mean? So please don't crack your head. Take up having policies, a return to work policy. It is good. I'm not saying that you don't, but my first thing I said, when did we stop going to work? Work has continued to happen. We should just now be putting guidelines of, if we are going to be remote working as an organization, what needs to be done? What risks are we looking at? But if it's going back to the office, wear your mask, sanitize your hands, wash your hands with soap and water, keep social distance, you know, things like that. And maybe just close the kitchen where is a social place, and it didn't go too well with us, you know. Why have you closed the kitchen? You won't let us get food from outside and things like that. So debates around that kind of stuff. But don't crack your head thinking that the policy is any whatever. In fact, anything, pick it from the Ministry of Health and go and write the name of your company logo over there, because then you should be starting from the known to the unknown. People are working from home. Those are the guidelines that you should be giving and you should be working on. Okay, someone else, please. Around whether you know it, whether it doesn't, if you shy, not your organization, or something that you have really taken away in terms of performance during this time of COVID. Anybody? Linda?
Mercy.
Yeah, hi Mercy.
Hi.
Yeah.
So what happens to us, as we've also been working from home, and then apparently there are some I'll say positions that are not, they can't really work from home because of nature of their work.
Yeah.
So what happened is they were given leave, paid leave since April. So yeah, but then what happens is we normally meet, we normally have a managers meeting every Monday. So we give an update on how your team is also doing. This also helps in also keeping in touch with your team as much as they're on leave, but are they okay? Are they well? Are they safe? Because at the end of the day, this is also not about just employees also just performing, but also the safety of employees, because the times that we are in currently, it's challenging to humankind. That's what I'll say. And then of course also the issue that you've said about good leadership impacts performance. I love about what even our executive director does, because he normally does like a roll call to ensure that all of the employees are okay, they are safe. I think that periodic communication, and also I sometimes also communicate to the staff, because we also have a WhatsApp group. So also at times also just to sensitize them about keeping safe, not going to public places if not necessary. Yeah, I would say that has worked for us so far.
Fantastic. And how have you seen performance during this time?
I would say, okay, apart from the people who are in quotes not working because of the nature of their work, I would say the rest of the team, I think people are really working at their peak, because you'll see, because we are working from home, even at times you tend to work even longer hours than probably how you will work in an office setting. So I would say the performance is good so far. I will say it has risen. The performance is quite good.
Fantastic. That's good. Better motivation. So what will you do with the people who are not able to perform their duties because of the nature of the job? And that is something that is a big debate around. For how long will they be on leave? What are you planning? Because Mercy, you must start planning. You must have a strategy for those people.
Yeah, that is the strategy I'm trying to look for.
Yeah, that's the strategy.
Because I want to strike a balance between also not hurting them and also not hurting the employer.
Very
between
true.
there.
Very true. Exactly. Yeah. And it's a delicate balance. There are some jobs who, unfortunately, I must say it in black and white, some jobs have to go. Yeah, it could be. Some jobs have to fizzle out, but how jobs will fizzle out, I did not say Catherine will fizzle out. Please, very specific. Jobs will fizzle out, Catherine will not fizzle out. How will we reskill and put people back into the system, into your system back again? I think that is extremely important for us to start those discussions. Okay, great. Someone else, anything? Anything? Good. a good takeaway? So really, yeah. So we've seen that leadership is everything that we need now. Our company has, when your screensavers are idling, the first thing is stay safe. We want you safe, you know, and all those guidelines coming up, you know, wash hands and things, low-lying fruits, you know, IT, just change the screensaver every day. How are you feeling today? Is there anything that we can, the HR can do for you? And another one is that, how is your mental well-being? You know, so just screensavers that rotate and remind you, and mental well-being in terms of, are you stretching enough? You know, are you sitting properly? Are you taking a break from time to time? Are you looking after yourself? Are you doing things that you really like? And if all that is not working for you, are you talking to someone? Are you talking to an expert? That's how it ends, you know, so that, and stay safe, you know, it's all over. So I think that's the primary concern right now for everybody. The world is at a survival mode. I still think that we are still not out of the woodworks. It will continue, but performance really has to be gauged in terms of what it is. And their board at the end of the year expects results, you know. That's the sad bit about it. Yeah, I sit in 2 or 3 good boards, and those boards are, we all there and say, even if it's COVID is happening, where are the results? What are people doing? You know, so even in the background, there are still people who are breathing down the CEO's neck to say, where is performance? How is it going to be? We know that the primary concern is for people to stay safe, but I'm telling you, in the background, the wars that are happening in the boardrooms are real. So let's talk about some of those strategies. Okay, so you'll see me standing from time to time just to stretch and to get my thought process going. Okay, so nice. I like that discussion, just to set up. So some of the topics that we'll be running through during these couple of hours that we are together, I would like us to think about performance and why performance is important and how it actually influences an organization. Why the Fortune 500 companies are where they are and ones that always struggle all the time. Is it because of their products and services? Would you say it's because of their products or services, or is it because of performance? What do you think? So even let's take a company like Safaricom and Airtel, for example. Airtel came into being before Safaricom. Safaricom outran Airtel. So do you think it as a result of performance, or is it as a result of the products that they offer is it the strategies that people set in place? That's a question that we've always asked ourselves from a strategy point of view. And think, well, what do you think? Are they interrelated? Are they connected? Is there a correlation between your products or services to your performance, to how you will become a market leader, and how do you sustain that as well? Anyone? Kate? Joyce? Gideon? Christine? Julia? Paul? Anyone? Anthony? Just picking the names randomly. Is there a correlation between performance and the products and services that you offer to become a real reputable brand? Fortune 500, the Cokes, the Facebooks, the Microsofts, you know, or even bringing it here closer home. Anyone who wants to go? There's no right or wrong. It's just a discussion around, if you started your business, or I keep asking people, if you are to be given your organization, would you take it and run with it? Or you say, this one, Westmake, I don't want it. And it's being given to you for free. Take. Would you take and run with it? What would you do better? That's what I keep on asking myself. For me to really work in this organization, if it was given to me, would I be happy? Would I embrace it with both hands and say, wow, come, I'm happy. I'm happy that you're here. Anyone? I think there's a strong correlation between your products and services that you offer and the performance that the output in terms of performance. Because then if people really believe in your products and services, then they will work towards making sure that the objectives are met. And that contributes towards performance. So it's extremely important. But even having good products and good services, if you don't have a good culture in the organization, you'll never be able to outsmart your competitor. That comes to the fact that your culture plays a critical and a big role in your organization. And why I say that is because it is closely connected to performance. And if you have a bad culture, if you have a rotten culture, if you don't have a people-centric culture, then what happens is that people will become disengaged. And the moment people are disengaged, what happens is that they do not care about performance. I'm here for just a short time. I am looking for something else. The sooner I get something else, I will leave this place. So where you start from, looking at how your performance is, where your performance is and where your performance should be going, should not be so drawn into your products and services, which is secondary. The first place you should actually be looking at is your culture in the organization. If it is not robust, if it is not people-centric, if it is not talking back to people, if people do not feel that it is part of their DNA, then you are going to suffer in terms of bringing your performance to the level that you want it to be. Especially even during this time, that is when you should be emphasizing on your culture. Then when people are not meeting face to face, every time I have a meeting, I'm plugging into Teams a bit more now. And I keep thinking, plugging into all these meetings, do I see the importance? I kept struggling and saying, I'm just in too many meetings right now, just checking on people in the organization. Sometimes I have to work odd hours to catch up with the people in the US and just find out how you guys doing, what can we do differently? Are you on point of what is happening around? What kind of support do you need? And then I keep thinking, okay, what about my other work that I have to look into all this other pending work? But I decided that I am going to balance it so well, and I am going to delegate as much as I can for me to be able to say communication is the one aspect that I will need to make sure that it is coming from HR for people to feel that we are checking on them, we are finding what they need, we are driving agility, we are driving diversity, even if we are not seeing each other face to face. And then I start building a data for the patterns that are coming out. And those patterns have already started coming out. Is that people, the first time, we are happy working from home with our families. Then the second week, what happens? I don't have the right chair. I am sitting too long. I don't have the right desk. The children are making too much noise. There's domestic violence. Me and my wife are not getting along. I need to go back to the office. And all those the patterns start emerging. I'm working too long hours. Then we said, it is not effort, it is productivity. So we know that there are some people will come and say, well, I'm in Nairobi, but you find them in Kitale, isn't it? As long as you're working, you travel to Kitale for 8 hours, it is okay. And you're able to come and plug in and meet the deadlines, it is fine. But also you're going to Kitale, it's important that you let someone know that you're going to Kitale. Please do not run away to Kitale. You might get into trouble. You might get into an accident and we say, but they were working from Nairobi. How did they get themselves into Kitale? And it was during working times. So I keep on saying your integrity matters a lot. That is the one thing. Integrity and performance go hand in hand. You cannot divorce those two. If you won't take anything again from this webinar, please, integrity and performance are synonymous. They go hand in hand. Because for you to come and say, I'm not able to meet this deadline today, I'll only be able to meet it next week, shows it's your integrity. And what has happened that you're not able to meet this deadline? You know what? I've not just started working on it. For sure, I procrastinated. I didn't know how big a task it was for me to complete this. That is a better person than you coming and saying, I've not had time to do it. You know, just think, this one I'll do it in 2 days. But the time you start, you find that you need 5 days to complete it. And those 5 days, the deadline will have passed. So it's in terms of us being able to be clear enough in terms of what you do. And what do you learn from that? Will I gauge you badly in terms of your performance? No, because you have actually told me the truth. So I hope you have teams of people of high integrity in your organization. So it's one of those things that you need to look into. If your performance is not at the level, at the peak level, I keep on saying, let me look at the integrity level. And of course, integrity can only show up because it's also along the area of trust. But the one time you don't tell me the truth, I can say, okay, fine, okay, white lie, what it is. And then after that, I keep looking and going along and just making the patterns and studying you as a person. And I saw that, and I see that you are not a very trusting person. So that could be a very, very big factor in terms of where you want to be. Okay. So performance management, as we all know it, I'm sure we have policies. Anyone who has a policy on performance management? Anyone? Please tell us. We do. It's everyday performance for us. Anyone who has a policy on performance management? Why do you have it and why is it important? I'm sure we all have it. People who have not spoken, please speak. These are the times I miss face-to-face trainings, you know, because I can come to you and give you the mic and you have to say something. No, I can't unmute for you. You can only unmute. I can't see your face. It's fine. Don't worry. Tell us something about, do you have, okay, a performance management policy? That's all. Yes or no? Anyone? Anyone? Allow me not to be the only one speaking too much here. Yes or no? Okay. I'm sure you all do. And we'll talk around how it helps you just perform your work and drive the organization strategy. So we all know that performance management is a process of ensuring that that set of activities and outputs meet the organizational goals in an effective and efficient manner. Performance management can focus on the performance of an organization, a department, an employee, or or the processes in place to manage particular tasks, including risks. So I say performance management focus on the organization where we have the overall strategy crafted from there. Then we go to the department and the department takes their objectives and strategies from the organization strategy. I'm sure at your level, you have a department strategy, and it shows how you're going to perform and how you're going to achieve those objectives. And then that leads to your performance. And then after that, it's cascaded down to Catherine, to the employee. And that's what kind of employees do you have in your organization? How are you looking at those employees, especially during this COVID time, where we discussed that a couple of slides before we started diving into this. Or processes, and how do we come up with processes in your organization? If right now as an organization, you don't have the position of a business intelligent analyst or manager or officer, then it's time to start thinking about it, because they will look into your processes. They almost read the future. 5 years from now, we will be able to focus, and this is how it's going to be. They do a lot of work and they help you with a lot of data. There are people that you need to keep extremely close because they can project, they have all those models that they work with. And those models sometimes are so complicated. I just say, please just tell me, factoring that this is the objective that we need to achieve, how much work will we be expected to do at that time? And how many people do you think we need to higher, and let's have that discussion. They're able to put models that if this is not working, this is the other one working. So we have all that in my organization, and they've really helped us project where the business is going and what the business needs to do. So a healthy state in terms of what we want to achieve, where we want to be, and how we want to outshine the competition in the area that we operate in. So processes are places where many of us do not put emphasis on, but processes are important, because if I am not there, then whoever comes to take up my role is able to fit in quickly. You know, you don't have to say, hey, she went with everything, she never used to do anything here. You don't want to be for whatever. So the flow charts of whatever, how do we recruit? How do we compensate? How do we run our training? How do we do our coaching in the organization? Through processes, and process mapping it's extremely important for us to do that. So I would like us to make sure that synonymous to performance and integrity, very important, and something that we are HRs that we do not look a lot into that area is the area of processes, because we just think that performance is only aligned to people, but it's also aligned to the processes that we have in the organization. If I'm not there, someone else can easily run with it and be able to execute the role. Okay, is there noise coming from my background, guys? Any noise? Are you okay? Okay. So what is the importance of employee performance in an organization? Importance of employee performance. They can be as many as we are in this webinar. Everybody must say one at least. Everybody must say one. Importance of employee performance in the organization, given that we know now that that the overall objectives is to meet the organizational goals in an effective and efficient manner. Anyone? Oh, guys. Anyone? Mercy, importance of employee performance?
I would say, I think it's to ensure that targets are met, and also to measure, how would I put it, to see whether the people, whether we have any probably poor performing employees, and how we can help them to be able to be better performing employees.
Aha, yeah. To see if we have any gaps in the organization, to tease out the poor performers, and maybe just to help them. Sabrina, welcome. Importance of performance, employee performance in the organization?
I believe it's to enable the employees meet that is a departmental objective, their own, individual objectives and organizational objectives. And also it helps us to know whom we can train. It helps us to know whom you can also coach. It assists us to move to the right direction.
Yeah, all that, yeah, very true in terms of where we want to go, ability to be able to coach. I love coaching in the organization, very different from mentoring and training and counseling. I love it. I love it. Just empowers people. People love autonomy in organizations. Someone else, Linda or Julie, something else that has not been said? Importance of employee performance? When you think about performance in your organization, what would you want it to achieve? What is important about it? If you are told by the board, hey, what we're going to do now is that we are going to put in place a performance policy. We're going to put in a performance management system. How would you come up with it? What are some of the things that you would start looking into? Anyone else? One thing I would like to say about performance is that it is not an end in itself. From the time you put up the job advert in the market, you're already starting to engage performance. How you position your job advert in the market, the people that you want to attract, will determine the kind of person that you will definitely bring in. And the moment you bring in a person, from the time they step into the door to the time you are leaving, during that time, let's say this is my coming in and this is my exit. Well, however, exit is not important right now. During this time, the whole of this space is an opportunity for an organization to manage employee performance. Performance is everyday discussion. We are saying, oh, you're doing well. This is a place you have to improve. Competencies are changing in the organization. We need to all to be in the same boat when these competencies are changing. Systems are changing in the organization. We all need to be together. You are in for the talent pool. We are gauging your performance. We are getting you ready for the next big thing that is in the organization. We are seconding you to this other department. That is all towards performance. We're increasing your salary because your performance is good. You are contributing healthily to the organization objectives, and we have been able to achieve, because of you. So everybody has a critical part to play in the organization. Everybody has a critical part. So whether it's the driver, whether it's the CEO, whether it's the production manager, whether it's the officer holding one position or the other, everybody has a position to play. And it is the role of the line managers to drive performance in their teams. It is not a HR, whatever. HR is the expert to derive programs and to organize programs of how performance is going to look in the organization. But who drives it? The person who drives it is the line manager, because he's the one who is in charge of leading the team through coaching, giving them instructions, and motivating them. So line managers have only two things to do: coach and motivate their teams, because they have technical people to be able to run with them and look at the bigger picture in terms of the strategy that the department needs to achieve, so that they also contribute to the overall organizational goals. But when we say that performance in our organization, and many people that we start discussing performance is at the end of the financial year, where the HR will send out a memo. Hello, everybody. Dear all, good morning or good afternoon. It's time again, and performance has to be evaluated. And everybody says, another HR thing. Okay, let them be the ones who are doing it. We really don't care about it. Let them be the one running it. It is not. When we have really robust performance systems in organization, everybody is happy. Everybody is ready to plug in. There's coaching. Oh my gosh, what will that coaching do? It will increase our performance, which will do what? Lead to a healthier bottom line. Oh my gosh. And the exciting programs and things like that. So let it be really part of your DNA. Let it be things that people clamor for. Let it be people really looking forward, because I get feedback. And one of the places that people really get shortchanged in organizations is lack of feedback and lack of clarity. But every time that we continue doing that, people really know that we are valued and we want to perform better. This is where I want to go. I have a roadmap. And sometimes that roadmap might be defined in some organizations, and some small organizations might not, because we are lean. So if I'm head of HR and there's nowhere else, I am only this many years, I'm only 25 years of age, and we retire at 65, and this is a really good place to work. What happens to my officers? So how am I going to reassure people that even because we have only one HR head, and also you want to become a HR head, and there is no possibility for those two positions at the same time, how am I going to get Sabrina ready without her thinking, I'll wait for another 25 years by the time she retires so that I can as well move? Okay, she can move, true, Sabrina can go, but how do I make sure that Sabrina feels engaged enough? Is for me as a line manager to start coaching her and empowering her. Should an opportunity occur, then she's ready. Start getting Mercy ready. Start getting Dan ready. Start getting everybody ready in terms of that. And that is all about performance. you know, engaging it and having those discussions around, okay, fine, there's only one position, but let's start getting ready. You're ready now, you'll be ready in 6 years, you'll be ready in 2 years, and that kind of stuff, so that people feel that, well, there's an opportunity, I am ready. Even if I was to go somewhere else, I've really been prepared for me to move. I don't know whether that is something that you look in your organization, because people are so afraid of training. And I have seen that in many organizations that I consult for sometimes. People are so afraid of training because people will leave. But I love that training where the CEO says, please train the people. And then the CFO says, no, please don't train the people, they will leave. And then the CEO says, you'd rather have people with the skill and the ability to be able to perform the job, or they leave and they leave you there. You get what I mean? So it's for us to make sure that we really train our people and not be afraid. After all, we are training people to be better leaders in Africa. That's what I keep on saying. So don't be afraid of training. It is an important place for us to be able to plug in, and let's see. So anyone who would like to say how they get their people ready? One head of HR, one head of finance, very young. Everybody wants their job and they can't get it. Everybody, do people feel discouraged, or do you have opportunities and programs that can make them feel motivated? And if there was an opportunity, they would be ready, or you just let them say, okay, fine, if they want to go, they can go. Anyone? Please share. There's no right or wrong. I'm waiting.
Hello, hi, Catherine.
Hi, Anthony.
For us, in terms of training, we have something called training needs assessment. So for that one, we let employees tell us what they feel they need in terms of training, in terms of what they need to develop themselves and their careers. So once we get that, it's done every quarter. So so from the data that we collect, then we are able to know in terms of departments, in terms of individuals, where we can plug in certain types of training for the individual so that they develop themselves.
Okay, and do you like provide all of them, or everybody's wish list? Even if I wanted to become a chef, you'd actually, oh, okay, HR and chefing, how do that go together?
Of course, it depends also with the budget, you know, because training requires a budget, and also it also depends on the, you know, you can't give everyone what is on their wish list. So again, we also look at that, and also the appraisals, for example, and match that with the needs of the employees. Yes.
Okay, that's a very good discussion then. And how do you tie it back to performance?
Well, because trainings must be done every quarter, we must account for them. So for us, in terms of training, we cannot shy away from that. It's actually a requirement that we must satisfy. So tying it back to performance means we've seen that when employees are trained and there are opportunities that are available for training, then people have something to look up to, you know, in terms of the future. So they do not join the organization, and even if they leave, they don't leave the same way they came in. They leave with something, even if it's a day's training, a week's training, whatever type of training, they become better in terms of their performance.
Yeah,
yes.
it's true. In terms of, I like what you have said. You said something very important. Even if they leave having become better, better skilled, better people, they have a better career projection ahead of them and stuff like that. And also tying it back to performance, are we looking at that? Return on investment is extremely important. We train for change of attitude and change of behavior. If you have the right skill and the right attitude, then what follows naturally is that whatever training you attend, a technical training, because you've gone in with the right attitude, then it becomes no-brainer for you to be able to do what? To be able to master the skill that has taken you. So when you come back to the organization, naturally, you're able to perform.
Yes.
You know,
That's
so
true.
it's the right attitude. And where does the right attitude come from? As I said, it comes from what kind of a culture you have in the organization. So it's important for you to check all this. You see how it just converts a correct attitude, good performance, you know, people with the right attitude, they're able to drive performance around. So some of the things, yes, we've mentioned, and I'm sure what I said is that we are just refreshing ourselves. What is the importance when you are told to craft a performance management policy? Let's start engaging performance in this organization. Where do you start thinking? You say, then what is the importance for me to be able to look into that? And some of the things you would pick from here: to review the performance of employee over a given period of time. Very true. Some of you do quarterly, some of you do half yearly, some of you do annually, but performance should be every day. When I come to the office, my line manager should be looking at my performance, you know, in a way that, well, that job you're doing it well, this job you need to improve, these are some of the competencies that you're lacking. It's every day. Even the kind of discussion that we have on the corridors. How are you doing? Are we playing football today? I mean, let's say you have a football team. Yes, we are meeting at the pitch. You know, what does that do for us? It boosts our morale. You know, we are bonding, we are getting together, and we are looking at, well, you like football. Yes, I like football. Let's meet at the pitch. What does that mean? You know, coming back and say, wow, yesterday the football game was really vigorous. It was good. And it is the same thing that we want to drive in organization. Just being able to know that I am a good footballer, it means that now you know me, we can be able to have healthier relationships at the workplace. You get, I like reading, so we have a book club, you know, and the book club, we read all sorts of books. You know, we had this beautiful FBI thriller book that we were reading, me and my 3 friends, and every day for 30 minutes, we were just like, wow, umefika page ngapi? Have you had that? The suspense was too much. So you see, it's people that you create good relationships, and you can say, well, this is lacking from your side. Please send it to me. If you're still reading the book, put your book down. Work needs to go on. So those kind of whatever. So it enhances performance relations in the organizations. So to judge the gap between the actual and the desired, so that those are competencies that you are looking for, skills that you are lacking in the organization, to help the management in exercising organizational control, you know, in terms of where do we want to be. And control is a function of management. I'm sure you know the other 3: the leading, controlling, planning, and organizing, the functions of management, to help to strengthen the relationship and communication between the superior subordinates and management of employees. You know, you want to be a people-centric organization, to diagnose the strengths and the weaknesses in the individuals, so as to identify the training and development needs of the future. You know, so what are we looking at in the future right now? COVID has happened. What kind of trainings do we need in the future? What kind of trainings are you guys looking at? Us guys have already looked at the trainings that we need for the future because of the new normal. Tell me, I'll be able to share some of the trainings that we are looking at developing in the future, and we started developing them now. Anyone? Trainings for the future? Have you started thinking about them? Anyone? Ahead of the game? That's what we want HR's people to be. Ahead of the game, you know, in a very pragmatic way, just looking, setting the pace for the organization. You know, what kind of trainings do you think that we need to plug into for our teams working remotely, differently? Anything?
Catherine.
Yeah.
I believe, okay, under training and development, I believe right now organizations should be having like a budget geared towards, like virtual trainings. Maybe privates have picked up. For public, we are still struggling, but I know
Okay.
it's more of virtual, most of the trainings. And then like the way we were used to going to a hotel to attend a training, you cut that cost and just make it virtual. So it's like you'll be cutting costs on travels, you'll be cutting costs on the places you're going to spend the per diems and all that. Then you empower it's like you empower the training teams that are there, the units that are supposed to be carrying the trainings.
Very true. Okay, so you're looking at holistically how trainings are going to be, how going to be run in the future. Many of them will be virtual, like what we are doing now, webinars. But specifically, what kind of trainings do you need to run for your teams going forward? Some of the trainings, have you thought through them? Anyone?
Mercy?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure whether this is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I know I've had conversation with the senior management team, and we are trying to look at things related to, do you really need to work in the office, or can this particular job be flexible enough for someone to work remotely or at home?
Exactly. Very true. Yeah. So trainings around remote working, yeah, will become very popular now. That's very true, Mercy. Another kind of trainings around agility, trainings around personal effectiveness, working across different time zones, different different cultures. Very, very important. Leave your everyday training of people moving into management. But right now we will be looking at trainings of agility. That's what we're looking in our organization. Diversity, working remotely. What does that mean for you? Well-beings around your ergonomics. You are working at home with children, factoring in your surroundings, your familiar surroundings, and just turning them up in terms of your office. And what does that mean in terms of your productivity? You get what I mean? So those kind of trainings around your own personal effectiveness around that kind of stuff is extremely important. So think about trainings which are not the tried and tested, and move a step further and saying, now that I will not be seeing you every day, what kind of trainings and connectivities do we need for us to be able to remain connected as people and to drive our culture? So there will be a lot of trainings around culture. There will be a lot of trainings around personal effectiveness, and there'll be a lot of training around virtual onboarding. So those are some of the trainings that we have started to look into, because they will have to be given online for us to start looking for people who are able to provide those kind of trainings. So if you want us to discuss, things that you can put in place and provide to your leadership teams, and looking for service providers, these are contents that will continually be given. How do we make sure that coaching is happening remotely? Coaching will continue being one of the biggest things, and taking and stretching emotional intelligence in terms of what people need to be more self-aware, because they're not working with others. But when we meet and we connect, how are we going to be connecting? So those are some of the trainings that we have started working and discussing internally, because then of the new way of working, and it is already here with us. Okay. So any thoughts around that? They
Yes,
look
hello.
realistic.
Yes, given the fact that trainings now have moved into the virtual world, we are also looking at trainings around cybersecurity.
Exactly.
Because we've noted, and also I think the the Communications Authority of Kenya has also noted that given the fact that people are going to access things virtually, they also need to be aware of the risks that they may incur when they access things virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the trainings that we should all be looking at, and from organization, we are also much looking into that as well.
Yeah, true. That will be a real big place that organizations have to continue looking at. Cybersecurity, making sure that their firewalls are not penetratable, and also looking at the risks when they enhance all these systems, technology that is bringing in place for people to be working from home and stuff like that. Very true, Anthony. So start thinking, be the blue-eyed boy, be the red-eyed girl in the organization of coming up with things that are really thinking out of the box, and people just say, this is a resource that we need to keep. That is how we want to think. Think about the future right now and how this is the new future. Anyway, we're in the 4th industrial revolution. It came in faster than what we thought. We'll be having 5G very soon. 5G between China and the US, who's complaining, who's doing stuff and stuff like that. So don't worry, 5G will come. And what will 5G do for us? 5G will just be like, oh my gosh, you think now you're being stalked by anybody? We will be cloned. I think all of us will be like 10 Catherine, 10 Anthony's, we'll all be doing things, and it's really different from how we are going to look at things. It will be very different when 5G comes. The speed will be lightning speed, and things will be moving a bit faster than what they are moving right now. Okay, so the importance of employee feedback. So with this feedback, that the importance of, we're saying, look at some of the things that you can do differently. That's what I want to challenge you. Look at like training. We've just stopped on that last slide of training. Some of the things, what would you do to make sure that your organization is moving ahead and you're helping the organization move ahead? So just don't say, oh, well, okay, these things are their bullet points and stuff. Articulate, run through them in your mind, take them back to your organization. What can you do differently for your organization? So that's what I would like to challenge you. Okay, so, oh, sorry. Oh, where did I go? Okay, needs of the future, and to provide feedback for the employees regarding, I said feedback is very important, to provide the information to assist the other personal decisions in the organization. That's very important. To provide clarity of expectations and responsibilities of the functions to be performed by employees. People have a job description, but that job description sometimes keeps moving. It should be very progressive because times have changed, especially now. Have you been able to review your job descriptions right now? For the people who are not able to go to the organization, for the people who are able to work at home, are things changing? Or it's just, well, you have a job description, you're HR, this is what needs to be done. There is much more that HR is doing now. Please go and change your job description on Monday if you have not changed it. I changed mine long time again, and I asked for more money, which I was not given. To reduce grievances by employees, to judge effectiveness of other human resource functions of the organization, such as recruitment, selection, training, and development. We agree, and there are many more. But put meat and say, this is what my organization does. How would it really work for us? What are some of the risks that I see? What are some of the risks that I can mitigate in this area? And that's how we come up with, when you come up with your board papers, it's not just, well, the tried and tested of what we have, but put yourself, immerse yourself in these highlights, in these important things, but now put meat around it. Okay, great. Any question? Someone who has done it differently, someone who has changed any job description during this time of COVID? It's a lot of work that HR is doing.
I have a query, Mercy.
Yeah.
How do you, for example, how will I, give me an idea on how I will change my JD as a HR?
What has changed differently?
Probably working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So that means discipline in working at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I don't know.
working from home, yeah. So for me, in terms of, we have a metrics in terms of what is the most important tasks that you need to achieve in order to meet your KPIs and to meet your department's KPI. For me, what I did was I needed to move communication from level 2 to level 1. I've just given you the kind of communication that is ongoing in my organization right now. So I moved that, provide all real-time feedback and communication to teams on the various aspects that they need. You know, my turnaround time needed to change. You get what I mean? So it became much higher compared to, well, I'll give you feedback in that aspect for 3 days. But looking at the urgency of that matter, it means that I need to provide feedback within 24 hours. So I saw that and I knew that something is not happening in my JD. I am not finishing some of my day-to-day tasks that I need to do. And I started thinking I'll start dropping balls. So was it to delegate more? Some of the tasks maybe I would not delegate, is to now put them in order of priority. So when my supervisor comes and says, Catherine, you've not done this, but I say, you signed against my JD and we discussed it. So this has taken priority, and this is why this one has not been done. The priority has gone to level 2 in terms of strategy. And then guess what? Board has gone to number 3. You would be very, very surprised that actually board dropped from number 1 to number 3, because the first thing is communication. The next thing I took for myself was strategy, and strategy is business continuity and risk. And then after that, I went to doing the board. And the board, anybody else can help me push the board papers and give me information, give me data and stuff like that. So that is what I'm saying, that in terms of, if you think that working from home like Mercy, where we all remotely working, then what does that mean for you in terms of your job description? Is it in terms of flexibility? Have you brought in a flexibility aspect in the organization that requires people for people to work remotely? It's now going to be a policy. And if you didn't have a flexi time policy, then this is a good time to introduce it and say, my job also requires me maybe to do 70% working from home and 30% working in the office. So when people don't see you all the time in the office, they know that your job description reads that it's 70% working from home and 30% working from the office, something like that. Okay, great. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question around that? I think that's a great question. Change your job description to align to the current situation of where you are. And I'm sure everybody is communicating much more. So when people think, well, you've not answered the email, it's because maybe I'm in another team meeting, that I am actually taking their concerns. We are looking at the way to enhance the business and stuff like that. So that becomes part of work. So if I don't do some of the projects that really need to be run, am I delegating? Or am I just saying that you will get it in 2 weeks compared to when you are getting it in 1 week? Because then there's more urgent work right now that is on my plate. So be honest enough, be authentic enough to say that that is not going to happen. But it comes with years of practice as well. So it's a good place to be in. Okay, let's look at the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities for employee performance. So knowledge so those are the 3 things that you will need to be aware of when you are evaluating or you are looking at performance throughout the time a person is in the organization. So you need to look at their knowledge, you need to look at their skills, and you need to look at their abilities. Those 3 things. Performance imeisha, hata tunaweza wacha kuendelea na hii seminar. Performance imeisha. So 3 key areas that you need to look and focus on, and I'm sure then we'll post these notes, so don't worry too much about try and internalize them more around our discussion in terms of what we are talking. So the notes will be there for you to look at them and be able to demystify some of the things and to think around, what am I doing in my organization? So the knowledge is very important. Skills are very important, and abilities are very important. I've already put up the knowledge. So how do we, whatever knowledge is information or data, particularly for and specific to a subject, empowering an employee to comprehend a subject to a satisfactory level, isn't it? So where do you get knowledge from? Where can you gather knowledge from? Where can we gather knowledge from? There's tacit knowledge, institutional knowledge. When people say they have institutional knowledge, what does that mean? They've gone away with all the institutional knowledge. What does that mean?
I believe they get it through experience.
Mm-hmm.
The more they work over there, they acquire it.
Exactly, yeah. The more they work there, the more they get it. Yeah, very true. Someone else, how do we acquire knowledge? Just from the definition.
Also from like mentors within the institutions. And
Within the institution.
Yeah, and you know, they sometimes we also have like journals in the institutions, the policies, your supervisors, those are like mentors.
Okay, yeah. So we acquire knowledge through many ways, yeah. Through working in the organization for many years, that is one of them. Sharing knowledge from people around us. We can also read about that particular subject or topic and get to know about how it is done. So all those kind of places, and the knowledge is that we should enhance our knowledge each and every day, and people who take extra initiative really are knowledgeable, and you want to work with them because their level of performance is always high. Skill is a developed or created inclination or capacity in the specific intellectual or physical domain. Tell me of a skill that people need. What are some of the skills that we need to develop, especially in HR?
Negotiation skills.
Negotiation skills. Another skill. It's a very good skill, negotiation skill. So the skills in your JDs. Another skill.
I would say also communication, because communication is key as a HR, knowing that you are the center of mostly you are sort of like a center person in between you and the management. I mean, the employees and the management.
Okay, good communication skills, very true. Yeah, negotiation, communication skills. Another skill. There's so many skills that we need. Another skill, so that we start operating at that high level. Operating at high level for us to be able to get it right and get it going. Your leadership skills, your management skills, you're honing them every day. Very important, extremely important, so that you're able to provide the right leadership to your teams. Okay, great. Abilities is the inherent internal talent, skill, or proficiency in a particular manner. What are some of the abilities? An example of an ability? Abilities? Ability to do what? I'm sure you have all those things in your JD. Abilities: a self-starter, tenacity, ability to keep confidential information as it is, you know, self-motivated, the ability, the inherent, you know, ability to have a sunny disposition, ability to work within limited supervision, that you don't want to be micromanaged and stuff like that. Okay, a question around that. Skills, the three big factors for you to be able to look at performance. Those three things: knowledge, the skills for you to be able to do a job, the technical know-how of being able to do the job, and the ability to be self-serving as an individual, the motivation that comes from within for you to be able to move forward. Okay, did you know more and more organizations are now using an analytics platform and investigating data in a major way? And I'm sure data, we have continued to talk about gig economy, we've continued to talk about AI, data analytics. We are moving from metrics to AI, and I hope that that is what you're doing, because you have a great opportunity to continue mining information for you to be able to get information around. And if you've not been keeping information from the 17th of March, in terms of the patterns that are developing in your organization, please start now. It's never too late, because that data will continue doing what? Informing the kind of policies that you need to put in place, will inform the kind of structures that you want in your organization, the kind of decisions that you're going to make, to take, and they will all be leading towards performance. So employee related data such as team interaction right now, very important. Performance rating, and it's not just, oh, you're a very high performer on a scale of 1 to 5, you know, when we say needs improvement, average, above average, super performers, you know, it's the rating. Yes, that's a good way to conclude your rating, but that's not it. It's the real discussion that happens during that annual appraisal of saying, how are you doing on this KPI, on this KPI, on this KPI? You did not meet it. But let's come back to the competencies and the attitudes that you have as a person. This is how you appear in the team. This is how you appear as an individual. You're not a team player in this area, in this area. We feel short that you do not, you're always procrastinating. You're not a completer finisher. You know, we are giving you tangible feedback. But most of the time is when line managers, and you will attest with me, this is that they are so lazy. And let me just use that word. And I'm using that word in a very cautious manner, because they do not want to do the hard work. They do not want to have the conversations. And for you not to have those hard conversations at the end of the year is to have conversations every day. You remember where I said conversations every day are performance conversations? But if you wait to have those conversations at the end of the year, that is when everybody just gets totally disengaged. It becomes a HR function, a HR activity exercise, which is in futility. Performance will never be able to improve if you are not looking at it on a day-to-day basis. So the final rating, I really don't care about it. I care about every day for us to be able to interact with us, with you, and what you are doing about it. So the well-being of people is how we work with them every day. Employees being able to give feedback, not just at the annual appraisal, but every day. Well-being helps make more informed decisions and improve their employee experience, because now we're all looking into that big word, employee experience. How is it when you're working with XYZ company? Would you come back again if someone is exiting and you ask them, would you refer a company to your colleagues, to your friends, to people who want to join? If sometimes people will say yes, but deep inside they're just saying, who, me, never, I'll never step back here again. So it's for us to know that how we manage people, how we manage their performance is very important. So please look at data related to team interaction, your performance rating. It's not just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever feedback you have, but it's discussions that we have and the well-being of how we are looking into people's whatever. So what are some of the well-being programs that you have put in place during this COVID-19? Anybody put in place? People working from home, yes, well-being of their safety so that they minimize movement as much as possible. Anything else that you have put in place? Anybody else? Please share. What have you put in place? Or even just for yourself then, that you can start collecting data. Have you found that people like to run more? People are exercising more? Have you done like a virtual run, a virtual walk? People log in and people say, well, I completed my 21 kilometer run and stuff like that. Anything that you have done differently? You see, in terms of collecting your data and helping you with information? Christine, Gideon, Joyce, anyone? Or you just let everybody go back home and have those meetings? Oh, how are you doing? What is the well-being things that you're putting in place to drive performance? Honestly, let's share. Anyone? Or what would you like to put in place that has not been embraced by the organization? That is also something else maybe you're struggling with. And maybe we can help you to come up with some suggestions or some ways to help you go back and implement some of the things that you see as a result of data. Every time we ask people, well, oh, we've started exercising, I didn't get time to do that, now I have time to walk around the block and stuff like that. So the other day we said, well, let's do a virtual run, the ones who can run and the ones who can walk. Very nice. And everybody it was very competitive, you know. I've done my 21, I did my 15, I did my 5, and some I was with my family. It was really nice, you know, competitive, fun things, you know, mental stimulation around the times of COVID. What have we done differently? And we didn't do it on a Saturday or on a Sunday. We did it on a loose Thursday, where people felt, well, we could get off and do it if you, whatever. We didn't want to eat into someone's weekend. Anyone? Anything? Nothing? Okay, so we can continue thinking about that. And if you have any, please come back to us and we can have that discussion. So what are some of the reasons for poor employee performance that you have seen in your organization? Reasons for poor employee performance. Why do people perform poorly? Anyone? Mercy? Reasons for poor employee performance?
I think when the employees are really not understanding their targets well, and probably they're not understanding is one thing, and also how to get there to achieve those targets is also another thing. So I would say those two, I would say mostly what is affecting performance.
Very true.
Probably in our organization.
Exactly. Yeah, in the organization. Someone else, they're already there now. We can expound on them. Someone else?
Sabrina.
Yeah.
Some reasons could be some people actually underperform because they feel that their job is not challenging and they're not engaged more. So they drift off.
Exactly. Lack of engagement, you know, the job is not.
Motivation.
Exactly, yeah. Lack of motivation, lack of challenging. The job is very mundane over time. It has just been the same. You remember where I said that there's only one HR, one CEO, and they're there to stay for a long time. So how do I get to enhance and enrich your job to make sure that you continue staying motivated, that you're ready, you feel that the job is enriching and rewarding. Very important. Someone else? You can pick this and drive it. Poor relationships. How can we talk? We can talk about poor relationships. It could be with who?
Their colleagues or their supervisors.
This is a very, very important aspect, and it happens a lot, doesn't it? Because of people's egos, people emotional intelligence, yeah. So poor relationships at the workplace. And what happens is because we are afraid and shying away from conflict management. Conflict management is one of the things and the topics that line managers do not want, because they want to see harmonious working groups, but that doesn't happen all the time. And when conflicts happen, we should be able to address them fairly, timely, and in a transparent manner. Someone else? And who wins all the time? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you give somebody the wrong JD, would that lead to poor performance? Like you don't give them the right JD, so it's like they're not doing the right work. What fits them well?
Definitely. If you give someone the wrong JD, they'll not be able to do. But how would it come about that someone has the wrong JD? Is it over time, or is it because, let's say I'm HR and you give me the job of quality assurance? How would I even ever be able to do that? Or even I'm HR and you give me the job of a business analyst. How would I ever, unless, I mean, how would it come about? Or you're giving me more tasks as I go along, more tasks, until my original JD fell off the radar, and now I find myself with a brand new job without any training, without any guidance, without any coaching. How would that come about?
Maybe when there are no reviews. I think so. When you conduct this performance management, then you look at objectives that have been met.
Yeah, true.
Or when sometimes, when somebody also reports during recruitment, they display certain skills. So you you actually entrust them with some work, but in the long run, work develops, it becomes more challenging. So you don't train that person, and that person handles that area. So
yeah. I think it is important for people. It's the employee's responsibility to inform their line manager to HR when their jobs have changed. And at what point do we change a job, and when do we increase salary within a job description? What's the percentage measure? Do you know, guys? We know? We do? Okay, if we do, then that's fine. So people need to be aware that...
Sorry,
you don't.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
You don't, yeah. So if the job changes more than 15%, then you need to redefine that job. So if someone comes, like I come in as a HR officer and there's more tasks being put on my plate over time because my line manager has seen the potential in me, and it keeps growing and it keeps growing, and it's time for us to candidly have that conversation and say, my job has really grown, and you don't have to wait during annual appraisal. It could be during annual appraisal or any other time, and say, well, it's really changed. Sometimes, yes, and if it's really changed, then and the organization is able to reward for it, it's important that we reward for it. So we remove all the redundant tasks that have fallen off the radar, and we prepare a new job description and we sign against it. So 15%, if it has really changed, then it really needs to be evaluated. It needs to be changed. It needs to be moved to the right place, and Mercy needs to move to the right grade of where it is. But most of the times is when, well, work is just shipped, and Sabrina, thanks for bringing up this. The wrong job would either be the wrong job, and it will be very unfortunate if someone is doing the right job because they will not have the skills and the ability and the knowledge to do it. But if incrementally, then people see my potential and put more tasks on my plate, I think that is extremely good. But I cannot continue not being rewarded for it, because it will lead to low motivation, and you want to keep me motivated. So prepare a new JD, have it signed off, and if it means that it needs to be evaluated and moved to the next job scale, that it also needs to be that, and it also needs to be rewarded. So those things need to be looked into, the 15% factor of jobs moving into another direction. So that's very, very important. Okay. Anybody else with a question? Okay, so that's what Sabrina was saying, and familiarity with equipment and processes. You know, I do not know how this is done. It's a new machine, so how do we operate it? It's a new system that has been brought into the organization. We have not been trained on it. So how can I be able to perform? You know, lack of time, because maybe I do not plan myself well. Lack of time could also be that I have too much work, or I am just a lazy person. You know, personal problems are some of the things that, well, I have problems at home. It's during COVID time and my loved ones have lost jobs. You know, I have someone sick at home. I have all this anxiety. And one of the things HRs and line managers, we cannot invalidate anybody's feelings during COVID-19. If I do not feel that I need to go to the office because it is unsafe, I feel that it's extremely unsafe for me to go, because there are some people who went paranoia, isn't it? I know a colleague of mine in the US, they have not left the house from March until today. Wajai kutoka, for real. They shop online, their food is put there, they sanitize it, they leave it in, they go out, their compound over there, they sunbathe, they go back home. They've never gone. So you cannot tell them a lie. It's here to stay for a long time. Yes, COVID is here to stay for a long time. So you cannot invalidate those feelings. Are they working? Yes, they're working. Are you engaging them in the right way? Yes, you're engaging them in the right way. But you cannot invalidate and say and taunt them. They're so afraid they think that they will, and they're the people who will go out and get COVID the first day. You cannot have those conversations. But aren't we having those kind of conversations in the background? Yeah. And when people get to hear that that is what we are saying in the background, what happens? They become discouraged, because you're invalidating their feelings and what they really feel at that time. And they will never come back to you when they really need to share a personal problem where you can help them. And what happens? It leads to poor performance, and you actually contributed to that. Yeah. So substance abuse, we know that happens a lot in organizations. People are under all kinds of substance abuse. That is when we get mental wellness kicking in, and we say, how can we be able to help you? Instead of just saying, well, you're going to lose your job because you're not performing, find out what is the underlying issue. Why is there substance abuse? You know, who is their circle of influence? How has it come about? Is it because of personal problems that they have resulted into that? So be having the duty of care, and you have good and if you have good robust wellness programs, you're able to help the person. You know, there are some people whom you will just let go, and then the following day you hear for sure that they died. So just be able to help. Performance could go down a little, but when you dig deep what is happening, you're able to help and performance go back, back on track. Okay, anybody else? Something else that people really wanted to check was defining performance goals. Before we go there, reasons for employee performance during how we are doing that during COVID times, you know, poor work ethics, you know, but how are you doing really during this time? Along the poor peer relationships is that I am so happy I don't have to go to the office. I don't have to be seeing that boss. Do you have those kind of conversations? Do you hear them along the corridors? Anyone? Anyone? Paul, Joyce, Gideon, unmute yourselves. Anyone? Okay. So let's move on. So how do we identify performance goals? How do we identify performance goals? Or how do you do that in your organization? How do you identify? So there are many ways of identifying performance goals, but we will highlight on these 5, which really should be forming the impetus of your strategy in terms of why are we here, what do we want to achieve. The main purpose of any organization is to make sure that all employees work towards the strategic goal of the company or the organization. It is essential that the goals and work efforts should define what should be specific, measurable, challenging. You remember what we have just said about challenging work, practical, feasible, and encourages participation across all levels. How does marketing department collaborate with HR? Do you know, when you think about that, how does quality assurance collaborate with the CEO? You know, everybody has a collaboration aspect, no matter how small. Even if we don't work closely, you know, like HR and finance work very closely, you know, finance and the core business work very closely, you know, but how do we make sure that as much as possible, we encourage participation across so that we look at our performance goals? Employees should know towards which direction they are working each day. Very important, and that is having clarity on their role, their job descriptions. If they're changing, what does it mean? If the organization is it changing, have we been plugged in? Each employee should clearly know his performance goals and work effort, giving feedback. This is what you're doing. This is what needs to be done. These are your KPIs, and should they be changing during these COVID times? Have they been communicated? Have they agreed to them? Do they think that they are challenging? Are they going to be rewarded? If there are any challenges within that, are we communicating? For this purpose, it is crucial that the company should have well-defined and clear goals and work efforts for each employee. We agree that I come in as Catherine. Even if I work in a department and I work in this organization, me as Catherine should be gauged on my performance. It's team effort, but also look at me as an individual and give me feedback. So that is how we come up, you know, looking at the greater organizational goal, and then making sure that we are collaborating, that I am working towards that collaboration every day and the tasks that have been put, and also looking at me there's clarity around my work, and of course, having clear goals and whatever. And we all are given KPIs. What are some of the KPIs for HR? KPIs measure. Some KPIs measures. Some very interesting ones, really. Some really good ones. Anyone? Mercy, Sabrina, Anthony? I'll call on you because you seem to be the ones who are unmuting much more than the others. KPIs for HR, or some of the KPIs that you work towards. Your flow chart in your organization, your Gantt chart in your organization, in your department, giving you turnaround time. Anything that has changed? No? Anything? Around recruitment, any target around recruitment? Turnaround time for 90 days. Is that happening now? Or it's become more difficult? Anthony, you told us that you have done some recruitments. How was that? How are you able to bring in the staff? Did it take you longer than the expected days? What you have in your SLA with the departments? Maybe you can share with us.
Yes, given the effects of COVID, but for us it didn't take long because the interviews had been conducted before March.
Okay.
So the only thing that took long was a bit long, but not really long, was the onboarding.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. But
so
apart from that, sorry.
Okay. Apart from that, sorry.
But apart from that, the process was, I'd say, seamless, maybe a day or two delay because, yes.
Okay, that's good. So how has the onboarding been? What are some of the things that you have had to change?
What has changed, because for employees that we onboard, we assign them mentors. So the mentors might not be available physically. So we put in provisions for them to be available virtually. So that is what has changed. You know, the only effect on that is that, you know, it will be better physically, I feel, for mentors to be there and guide, you know, the new employees well. But being virtual also, you know, has helped with the process of onboarding them.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're lucky. So you've not been you didn't bring in anybody. You've not hired during this COVID, maybe from 17th to July.
Well, we have, but like I said, the interviews were done way earlier.
Okay, earlier, yeah. And sometimes the recruitment in the public sector takes much longer than
It does, yes.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Anybody else
Yeah.
who has recruited during this COVID time?
I have.
We have not. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
We have not recruited, Sabrina.
Yeah.
But our process began earlier before the COVID.
Okay.
So when we were to do the recruitment, it had to stop. We had to actually stop the process for a while. Then later, around when was it? May. That's when we conducted the interviews. Some virtually, some appeared.
Okay. Some face to face?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we had to actually put, you know, those measures, COVID and all that. Yeah. But some we did virtual.
Okay. And the people already onboarding now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Mercy?
Actually, I've had several positions advertised during this period because of also, since I work in the NGO, there are some targets that positions that needs to be filled. And even the donors have insisted that we really need to like fill them because they also contribute to the overall performance of a certain project. So you will see that I shortlisted candidates. I even had a first round of interviews. I had second round of interviews, though online. Then now I'm yet now to have now the one-on-one interviews with the senior management team for the top management. And of course now I know I'll also have now another challenge in onboarding because for now, as we're working currently from home remotely, only maybe 1 or 2 days, maybe we go to the office. So I know that is a challenge I will be facing in the near future.
Yeah, okay. So for us, when manpower planning is a big issue in organization. So we know how many positions are going to be recruited in 2020. We now know for 2021, there will be some backfills for people moving internally as the business shifts. This year, we've had globally 4 people leaving the business for bigger roles where they came and say, Catherine, really, I have to go. This one I can't let leave, you know. And they've gone to Fortune 500 companies. So you can imagine. So the labor of turnover is very low. But I want to come back to my experience in recruitment during COVID. So, of course, retain workforce. First objective, stay safe. Remote working if we can, and many of our teams are already remote working, like in the US, in the UK. So in South Africa, people remote, you can work. Work for us is a space. Whether you want to go to Java or whether you want to go to your favorite restaurant and work from there and whatever, and you deliver, that is fine. But there's some core meetings that maybe you must attend and stuff like that. But given that we're in IT and engineering, can you imagine that I had some difficulty in recruiting for some positions, engineers especially, because people are saying, no, better the devil I know than the angel that I do not know. I'm not ready to leave my position right now because I do not know that you will sustain my position. My organization right now seems stable, and it's a very wrong time right now to actually leave a job. I don't know whether you face that. And that's the data that I'm collecting, you know, because some positions were critical and I was not able to bring in people. And line manager saying, what is happening here? And I say, well, they've said no. They've approached them through headhunting or even just the normal processes. We have a very abstract, you know, someone, bring them in, interview, you know, over a cup of tea and stuff like that. You know, someone, you know, advertise the job for transparency and stuff like that. You have a friend, bring them in and stuff like that. We give you $100 if they're successful. You know, all those kind of things that are really puts recruitment at another level, because we know that when we do good recruitment, performance will also follow. Remember I said position your brand in a way that it speaks for itself in terms of performance and what you're going to do. Really, you're going to drive. We are slave drivers in a way that you're going to really work. But so what happened is that I saw a pattern emerging and people saying, well, I don't think so. Because even in Kenya, some of you have heard in terms of someone has just signed up a contract. They're leaving ABC to go to XYZ, and why XYZ calls them 2 weeks later and say, no, unfortunately, we cannot continue this contract. Why? Because COVID has happened and we have to close the organization. So they had already left their place of work. And that was something that many of us have faced in terms of someone has just come in, we have to let them go. So when I saw that pattern emerging, I had to be agile and I had to think out of the box and say, is there a company that can, because we also work with outsourcing companies, we went back and said, you need to be on standby with more engineers for us. Because right now we need to move the business, but the business is struggling in terms of bringing in people that we need, because people are shying away from moving from their place of work. So from where they are. So what we did was look at the factor. What does it mean in terms of cost? The cost was higher compared to bringing in manpower internally. But does that help the business in the short run as we continued struggling, looking for those hard to fill positions? Yes, it was. Did it help the business? It did. Are we going to recoup those costs? We might recoup those costs. Does it count for my performance in terms of being agile and helping the business? Yes, it does. Did it help me look good? Can I smile and say, yes, you know, I'd found a solution for the business? You get what I mean? So what I'm saying is, in terms of performance, how are we adjusting ourselves around these COVID times? So looking and saying, what can I do for the business? It's not working. Wamekata kukuja. So you'll be told, so wamekata kukuja, what will you do? Can you suggest ways? You remember where we say feasible and encourage participation around business solutions. Those solutions might cost money, but what are we doing around it? You get what I mean? So it's just for us to be able to look at the bigger picture. So as I go along, I like to share my experiences, and you might be able to pick one or two things. You might be able, and not all of them work. Some are really challenging, you know, and stuff like that. So, but anyway, there's never a dull moment in HR, is there? Can see all of you smiling. Never a dull moment. Okay, so let's move on. Defining performance goals, I will move very quickly in the interest of time, is that we should have SMART goals. Those SMART goals are, of course, they are, we know this I will not even go over it, you know, in terms they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be attainable, they should be relevant, and they should be timely. So these all tried methodology of defining performance goal will never go out of fashion. Never, ever, ever, ever. Even if you take it to the bank will always bank on it, and they will be happy to talk to you and be able whatever. So things that should be challenging, and bringing myself in the aspect of, yes, you can, in terms of being present and being an individual, me as Catherine being looked at in terms of bringing my performance to the fore. They should be smart. Even you guys as HR, we should be able to tell people when you come here, objectives are SMART. And do you know what that means? This is what it means for you. So everybody should be able to understand that. So when we are discussing my objectives and my key performance indicators with my supervisor, we already know that they should be SMART. No, that is not challenging enough. I don't think that's challenging enough, boss. No, that one I can do it in a heartbeat. Can we craft it in a way? I can bring sales of 100 million in a month. I think you should push it. I think, boss, let's try 150. Let's push it to 150. So discussions like that, that everybody feels that they are really invigorated to bring in performance in the organization, because it improves the bottom line. When it improves the bottom line, what happens? Everybody is happy and everybody can get a salary and move on. Okay, so great. Okay, consideration for developing performance objectives. What are your considerations? So you've come and said, well, what is the importance? You started crafting your policy. You've said that they should be SMART. They should be, we've seen some of the challenges. What are some of the KPIs that we should be looking at? How are you going to change your job description if it is not good enough? But what are some of the considerations? Define your goals, the short-term goals and the long-term goals. Identify the possible obstacles and the complex issues in the process of realization of those objectives. For me, did I identify a possible obstacle by constantly analyzing the data in the scenario I gave you for recruitment of engineers? Yes, I did. Did I create flexibility into a system that was necessary to change and add as required? Yes. Did I look at the risks? Yes. Did I look at the costs? Yes, I did. And there are many ways that you will be able to look into this. COVID times, people are asking, well, do we give chairs because of endometrics? Do we give headphones? Do we give desks? What have you done? What's your long-term goal? Is that a short-term goal? Is it a long-term goal? What have you guys done? Have you asked people to buy them? Have you given them a loan that they can pay softly? Have you said, oh, we are a rich company, everybody come, go and look for the most fancy desk that you've always wanted and the most fancy chair. We are going to give you the best Dr. Dre headphones and stuff like that. What have you done? Within reason. Those are your short-term goals. What is your strategy? And keep track of the resources needed, of the resource needs. That is very important. So anybody around COVID in terms of developing performance objectives? Have you redefined them? Like for the admin, what have you done? Like Mercy said, well, they're on paid leave. Someone else, that's a strategy. Yes, when they paid leave, whatever, do they feel engaged? You check on them from time to time. How are you guys feeling? But what can we really do around those jobs before I tell you what us guys have done for those jobs? Reskilling and skilling. Said we are here to learn. Guys, what have we done? Do I pack that and go on without saying what we have done?
No, please.
Someone, what have you done differently? Anything that we have done differently? Or we are thinking the first thing is that I have said that some jobs have to fall off from the face of the world, yeah?
Yeah.
And that is true. So does that mean that Catherine has to fall from the face of the world? No, isn't it? So it just means that we have to look into our organization and quickly start adapting to these changes. So are we able to reskill an office admin? Are we able to reskill a driver? Some of the things is that and you will struggle if you had office cleaners, for example. For us worldwide, we don't have those outsourced services. So how it is now, the new protocol is how to clean the offices. You get what I mean? Deep cleaning, always sanitizing, almost smelling like a hospital. We all know those things, and everybody's doing that anyway. Outsource services. I hope that your SOPs with them have changed. If they have not changed, please go and check on them, because you don't want a case of liability from someone who's coming and saying, show me the, and people can be very, very difficult. And I'm saying this because the lawsuits that might come up in the future are going to be extremely interesting. I got COVID, and COVID has long-term underlying issues and problems to the lungs, to the body. And you know what? The office cleaners never used to clean it well. And the judge says, give us the SOPs that you signed when you set out the guidelines. So it's important when you say cleaning every 2 hours of the knobs, of the doors, of the high traffic places, is that being done? Is there a record of that being done? So please be specific in this area, because it's a very debatable area. If I got COVID and let's say that the government mulikas us and ask for our guidelines written, done, people can vouch for us that that was being done, it is important. So you are cleaning, your office cleaning around COVID, whatever, and how you are outsourced, whether they're internal people or whether they're outsourced, it has to be. And I tell you, if people don't have a good attitude, they will just sit there and not clean, isn't it? But if they're engaged and they're empowered and their performance is looked at, feedback all the time, they'll be able to actualize it for you. So let's pack that. So for someone like a receptionist and office admin who really need to be there, there's no more travel for them. There's no more buying of stationery. I don't know what they do. They no more of facilities. The windows are broken. See you what, all those things, important things that they do in the organization. So what have you done? Is there a way that you can surrogate them to departments that are really struggling? Like processes need to be enhanced in the organization, and it's something that the QA manager can teach them. So we said processes during COVID, we need to now align them with technology, working from home, businesses not meeting face to face. What does that mean in our flowcharts and things like this, if this, whatever? So we've actually given them, we have plugged them in opportunities where we see that work was lagging behind, but it was important work for the organization, so that they feel well. And some of them, they've really shown sterling results already, calling us for meetings for us. And you're thinking, oh, this thing was always in my back burner. Now you are telling me to come for the meeting. Are you ready? Yes, we are ready for you. So we have seen motivation, we have seen reskilling in the organization, and we have seen engagement levels staying in the organization, because we still want to retain you. And we say, what else, where else are we having big projects coming up? And where can they plug in? They don't have the skill. Is it a technical skill that they need to learn? Yes. Are they capable of learning that skill? It's like you asking me to be a doctor. It would take me maybe 10 years to be a competent doctor, compared to me doing process flows. You get what I mean? A job that is repetitive and you can do. So if it's very technical, of course they can do. They can go to the sea and work on cables and stuff like that. But are they able to do much more? You get what I mean? Board meetings are still there. Am I able to say, the ones that are not confidential, are you able to do for me? Prepare for me the board packs like this, teaching them. What has it also taken? It means that the people who are going to train them have to be much more patient in training them. Remember, it's not face to face. You remember? So track the resource needs, create flexibility in the systems. This is, if you won't take anything else today, then consideration for developing performance objectives within COVID times, and what can you do in your organization. If you're a small organization, you might struggle. For sure. If you are a big organization where you have many things that move around and some things which are not being met, and we are always making noise in quotes of, you haven't finished this, it's important, when are you going to actualize it? This is the right time to tie your processes. You remember where I said in the beginning, what the definition of performance? It's not just about people, it's also about processes. So take it, we took and ran with it. And is it working? Has it paid off? Yes, we can see it's paying off. Some places, some people are not interested because it's not their forte. So what can you do? But we do not want to lose anyone. But there will become a time when you have to make a hard decision as a business and say, do we need drivers? No, we don't need drivers. Do we have a place to place them? We don't have a place to place them. Is it time for us to make a difficult decision to let them go? Yes, unfortunately it is. Do we need an office admin? No, we don't. Do we have a place to place them? No. Is it time for us to start separation? Yes, it is. So, but first exhaust everything that you have internally, especially your processes, is where you have a great opportunity to plug in people to help you. So surrogate people as much as possible. That's what we are calling it here. Okay? Questions? Suggestions? Anything that you have done differently? Apart from them sitting at home? Anything? Research on what's happening. It's a great area, you know. Let them mine the internet for you to get what's happening out there. Let them make calls to places where they're going to get that whatever. Compile it, start having analyzing it. And for me, I've really taken advantage of that. All the work that I've always wanted to do is going to be done during this new normal, which will continue to be what it is, because we are not ever going to go back to how things were. Anyone around that? Anthony, you are looking forward to that. Mercy, you are looking forward to that. Anything around that? Anybody else?
My question is on the KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
One of my targets, because I deal with the attachment and the internship. Even we're just from closing the financial year. You're given a target of how many interns and attaches you have to bring in, and then there is COVID. You cannot bring in these trainees.
Yeah.
And you're still being requested for a report.
Then that would be unfair on your part for someone to ask you to give a report, whilst we all know that freezing has taken place and there's no more hiring. So it's very, very unfortunate that someone would whatever. So that's a KPI that you and your supervisor should go back and say, this KPI is no longer tenable during this time and will not be bringing in. So you'll not gauge me on this KPI. Can we introduce another KPI? You get what I mean? So can we introduce another KPI? And maybe another KPI would be like looking at the processes, like what I have said. So go in with another suggestion. You remember SMART, where they are challenging, you feel like, well, what if it was just your one SMART KPI because you need to bring in 40 interns and train them? Now you have 0. That's a heavy KPI for you, but now you have 0 KPI. So how would you still be able to bring in another KPI that can whatever during this time and say, maybe let's remove the KPI, but let's look at the processes of how we were bringing in these interns. Is there a better, because we were always so rushed, now it's time for us to reflect and bring in and put in a model that when it is time for us to be bringing them in, it is the best. You are the center of excellence. So take those opportunities to relook, to relearn, to reskill, to do it much better. So when you come and look at the data, historical data, and analyze that data. So that's what I'm encouraging people. Even when that is lost, what have you done in the past that was really a pain, that was not working well? What can you perfect so that when you have the opportunity to bring it back, if there is, then you are ready and you are not struggling. If it's never going to come back, then close it and say, this was it. It was nice when it lasted, but now it's no longer going to be. Is that okay, Sabrina? Do I help you in that point?
That's okay. Yeah. But it will take some convincing, because Okay, like when we were closing the financial year, I had to really struggle
Yeah.
to meet the numbers. So I even tried to give them the reasons why.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
because it's also a PC target
yeah,
that has to go to the ministry,
yeah.
so it's not that easy.
Yeah, not that easy. And there could be some bureaucracy and red tape around it, unfortunately. And how do you navigate around it? That's always the big question. How do I navigate around this red tape, bureaucracy? And unfortunately, there's never a perfect organization, never. Even your own home is not perfect. It's still work in progress. So it's all about relationships and it's all about communication. So it's work in progress. And I believe that it's something that you continuously own and run with it. It might not be easy, but when you look back, I say, what will be your legacy? What's the legacy that you'll be leaving in that organization? Okay. So some of the things that we have done. So I will not go, in the interest of time, I'll start moving very fast. Who would think that performance in an objective and the strategies would really, it can take a whole day for us to discuss. Objectives can be broadly classified under the following headings: the work objectives, the targets, the tasks, the projects, and I'm sure this you all know, the behaviors, the behavioral parameters, which are extremely difficult. So if I don't say good morning to you, you cannot hold me hostage for not saying good morning to you. I really don't want to say good morning to you, but it is cordial and respectful. We are human beings. We are social beings. You come in and say, good morning, Catherine. How was your evening? That's it. And maybe you are not a morning person. You'll only be able to be yourself at 10 o'clock when you have your shot of coffee, and that time you are really engaged and stuff like that. So learn your teams. Learn your teams, learn the kind of person Catherine is, learn the kind of person that Marcy is, so that you know where to engage them, and so that you do not have egos flaring up and you say, oh, she's a very difficult person, she's got an attitude, and not defining the kind of attitude. You need to learn to start saying, she's got a bad attitude, she's got a good attitude, she's up to the task and stuff like that. So values, performance improvement, and developmental objectives. I will not go into that because whatever. So those are things that you know. Or you want us to go into them work by one? Yes, for the interest of time, because I want us to move a little bit and look at some of the strategies that we can put in place practically. Trusting your employees. I say the currency right now that we're using is the currency of trust, because we are not seeing people face to face. And if you already had already a remote working policy, then it's not, you're not too, it's not new. It's not a new frontier. If you had flexi time, it's not a new frontier. But now working from home it's really something that we need to embrace and bring in the fact that trust is an extremely important factor in terms of managing your teams. Trusting your employees and driving employee engagement is one of the sure short ways to help improve an employee's performance. You agree? It will be always important of how we drive that and whatever. So what are the possible measures of performance, and what are some of the strategies that you will be putting in place? So let me drive that. We know I don't know what kind of systems, the balance scorecard is one of, who uses the balance scorecard? Anyone using the balance scorecard at their place of work? Balance scorecard? Okay. So the balance scorecard is a widely...
We use it in our organization, but still, it has actualized with the researchers, but for the support staff, we are still struggling.
You're still struggling? Okay. Because maybe what you are not looking into all this. Sabrina, you need to focus on this a lot on your balance scorecard, work objective targets for all. The balance scorecard is one of the best systems to use in managing performance. Being extremely smart, extremely accurate, and you can hold people accountable. You can use all those other systems that are there, management by objective and stuff. There are many, and none. A 360-degree feedback is very nice, but in terms of really teasing out what exactly needs to be done by an employee, even if you're not using the balance scorecard, if you look at these 4 measures in an organization, it works in any organization. You know, learning and growth for the people, especially HR should take this and run with it 100 kilometers and never looking back. Even don't put your reverse gear, because this, you will be able to look at people behaviors. You'll be able to look at coaching, mentoring, the well-being of people. It's a real strong performance measure for you to put in place. The internal perspective, inwardly looking at who we are, looking at the processes of what needs to be put in place, quality assurance and being able to hone it. Customer perspective, how do people see us, you know, externally? How are we branding ourselves? What is our brand status? And the financial perspective, you know, and people have financial perspective. Everybody should have a target on financial perspective. So when you look the customer perspective, to achieve organizational vision, what customer needs, must the individual serve. Have you ever gone to a cocktail and or to a friend's party and you have these people say, oh, I saw an advert for your company, and you say, hapana, usi apply, huko siku poa. Or another person say, send your CV, I'll talk to HR. Man, you need to come and work with us. In fact, that job is just for you. And they say, you know, those are 2 perspectives, you know, how you align yourself, how you position yourself. Possible measures, you know, customer satisfaction average, satisfaction gap analysis versus level of importance, satisfaction contribution, you know. So they are really, these are some of the things that I picked out that in terms of really looking at customers, and your customer internally and externally needs to be analyzed in terms of where we are and how we stand with them. Okay, so financial and regulatory perspective, to satisfy organizational constituents, what financial and regulatory objectives must an individual accomplish. Cost unit, you know, unfunded requirements for projects, cost of service, budget projections and targets. You know, at HR, you'll be looking at cost of recruitment, cost per person and stuff like that. And then we have the internal perspective, to satisfy organizational customers in which businesses, processes, and an individual excel. You remember what I said, the cycle time to do any work, the completion rate for any job that you are doing, workload and employee utilization, even during these COVID times. These are things that you must take up and run with. How are we gauging performance? If you look at these internal perspectives, and if you can call me up, by the way, and we can discuss my organization, how do we tweak that target? How do we tweak that performance for us to be able to fit into the bigger organizational objectives? And then errors or rework. You know, I give you work and I keep taking it, taking it back to you. You know, in an organization, we have a tagline, right the first time. You must do work right the first time. Then it means that I don't have to go over it. There are no errors, you know. You've completed it well. So when you're passing it on to the next person, it's complete and people feel that they can be able to do that. Yeah. Any question around that? So these 4 performance measures, your learning and growth, finally learning and growth, to achieve organizational goals and accomplish core activities. How must an individual learn? Now you remember we are reskilling a lot. How are we communicating and working together remotely, especially now? Whether I liked you or not, we must continuously, and I look and just say, some teams don't want to put up their faces. It's not faces online and stuff like that. But you can see me now. You can read my visual effects. You know, you can see my demeanor when I'm sad, when I'm apprehensive, when I'm anxious. You know, you can be able to read those subtle points, you know, and be able to come and say, is there, and maybe follow up and say, Catherine, I saw in the meeting that you looked a bit apprehensive. Is there anything that I can do about it? You're very upbeat about it. What did you see? And how can I also plug in? You know, can you help me there? You are the champion of this, you know. So face to face will continue being extremely important. So when people hide and I just see blank faces, then it is for you to stress and come up with a culture. If you first start with a culture of people not appearing on video, there's no way 5 years later, you'll start telling people to put on their videos. It will be very difficult. Please start now. And again, anyway, are you not the ones paying for the internet? So they won't say whether they want a black wall, and people say, oh, I don't want my home to be seen. Then what we have done, because we know that we've had many people saying, oh, give me whatever, is that all our whatever have our logo there, you know, and has a COVID-19 message running in the background. So on your banner, something like that. So creatively, with a lot of uniformity, if that's what we need. So our backgrounds are the same. Empowering people with our brand, making sure that we are all the same and people don't feel, well, I'm speaking with the CEO and he has a marble wall and mine is just a white wall with white paint. You get what I mean? So all those kind of conversations around. So let's look for innovative ways to bring people to the videos and make sure that we can see them and we can see maybe think what they are thinking, because we work with these people and we are not meeting face to face all the time. But in nusu ya kuonana, okay, employee satisfaction, retention and turnover, training hours and resources, that might not be whatever. If you are still doing training, it's something that you still need to whatever. I have told you some of the things, programs that we are going to start, we are thinking about and how we are going to craft them. We are looking for service providers who are good in these areas and ability to deliver content online. That is the next big thing. There's business out there, guys. If you can deliver content and deliver training online, you're in business. Please run with it. Your side business. Technology investment, very important. Well, how are we enabling teams to be able to work together? So these are possible measures. So whatever systems that you use, but you need to look at this holistically. Are people learning in your organization? Are people plugged in your financial aspects and the bottom line of the organization? Is there an internal perspective? How do people see us? How do we collaborate with teams? And the customer perspective externally, how is a brand being whatever outside there? So it brings back to the objectives that are have been set by the board and what the organization needs to achieve. Any question before I wind it down?
Hello, I have a question.
Yeah, hi,
on the balance scorecard. How do we custom make it to fit the various roles that employees undertake? Because the balance scorecard, I agree, it's really one of the best tools for gauging performance management. But I found that when we implemented it and we sought feedback from our employees, they seem to say that you know, some of these things highlighted on my scorecard do not really fit with what I do.
Okay.
So how do we custom make it? You know, like customer satisfaction, for example. How does a driver, you know, undertake that and make sure it fits into what they do?
That's a good question. Yeah. Remember first, our objectives are derived from the bigger strategy of the organization, isn't it? So let's go through a phased approach. So the bigger objectives of the organization So everybody understands that, and everybody understands our values, and everybody understands the kind of culture that we have in the organization. Everybody. So we are okay with that. Then after that, HR, we tease out from the organizational objectives. We come and say, this is how our strategy is going to support the bigger strategy, isn't it? And then from there, the objectives of the department cascade down to individuals, and they should be in line with my job description, isn't it? So there are two things that help us come up with performance objectives. First is the department's objectives and my job description, isn't it? So let's go to performance measures, let's say for a driver in the area of customer satisfaction. And I like that question. It's a question that people always ask. How do I make sure that a driver really is able to, or anybody else, even as HR or even the CEO, is able to plug into all the four elements of the balance scorecard? Okay, so for example, a driver should pick me up at my house to go to Isiolo for field work, isn't it?
Yes.
And a driver should drive at 80 kilometers per hour, isn't it? Or 100?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, so one of his objectives is be a brand ambassador on the road. If I see, let's say, a Red Cross car being driven, then I could tweet and say XYK is being driven very badly and maybe take a shot of them, isn't it? So you've actually you are not a brand ambassador, because then you should be really a brand ambassador on the road. So you're breaking one of your key performance indicators. Then you're supposed to pick, you'll have 30 road trips this year, and you almost know how, because of your work plans, you know what's going to happen. You'll be picking Mercy at 8, you'll be picking Sabrina at 9, and Catherine at 10. But you start picking Mercy at 9, meaning that you pick Sabrina at 11 and Catherine at 12. We go back and say, Anthony was not on time. So we start picking up your whatever. Oh, he came in actually at 7:45. We gained 15 minutes. You get what I mean? He was driving safely. So customer satisfaction for a driver, the feedback will come more from maybe from the people, but also if you have a system of checking their speed. If you have a transport management system, you'll be checking on their speed. You will be checking on when their cars are serviced, whether their cars are safe. You'll be checking how well they maintain their car. You know, things like that, that are practical, and you're able to say, you're supposed to take your car for 4 times a year. You took it when there was a minor, whatever, and you also know how to repair and stuff like that. So you're able to pinpoint that. But again, you're also able to say, when they began their journey, their logbook, what time did you pick Catherine? It's data, it's informed data. You picked up Catherine at 12, while you were supposed to have picked up Catherine at 11. You get what I mean? So you start logging in. So you have your data. It's not that you don't have data. So you just don't wake up and say, you're a very bad driver. You know? And you say, why? Oh, because then they'll ask you why? Because I had. No, your logbook. I've looked at your logbook, and at the beginning of the year, we also said your logbook, and then they say, oh, okay. And yeah, well, again, integrity and performance. You remember what I said? They say, I woke up late, and the jam was so much. Their waking up late was whatever was what happened in there. In that process. So you get what I mean? So they come and say, and next time you can even have and say, well, put an alarm 15 minutes before so that you are helping them. You get what I mean?
Yes.
You are helping
Yes.
them in this process. So you're not just bashing in them, say, it's not my problem. You need to do what needs to be done. You need to help people in the process and give them feedback. And that feedback you're not giving them in December when the evaluation is being done. It's, oh, you've looked at the logbook. This is what it says. The system says that you drive 120. Do you know it is safe for yourself, unsafe for yourself, and unsafe for your passengers? You get something like that. So
Yes.
you just remind them. So at the end of the year, they are saying, I really had a good year. I can see how I contribute to the objectives of the organization. When I take my colleagues to do their field work in Kisumu, and I drive them safely, and we get there on time, they're able to start their work on time. You get what I mean? So
Yes.
it's more of having those discussions around performance and how it contributes to the overall. You remember when I said everybody collaborates in whatever way. If you are employed by the organization, they knew that there's a need for us to have that position, that role. And they know how it contributes. So it's for us to believe in ourselves, no matter what position, whether it's the lowest in the organization, whether it's the highest in the organization, we have an important and a critical role to play in the organization. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else? Great. So that's how we, whatever. Okay. So very quickly, I will just jump. Those are some of the, how to perform whatever when you go. Those are some of the things that you can use. Already they are there. I've put them out for you. Traits affecting, you know, how, and this is our last slide. So what affects performance? You know, traits affecting employee performance, they could be as many as we are, and some of them are leading and managing change, very important, especially during COVID times, your personal brand, your business skills, coaching and developing others, developing the organization, building relationships, you know, strategic thinking. Those are some of the things that really affect your employee. And it's now just you as an individual and how you show up, how you really plug into the organization. How do I appear as Catherine? Am I motivated? And who motivates me? Motivation comes from self, and then the environment should be enabling enough for me to feel that I'm engaged and my performance is being respected overall. Okay. So this is my last slide in terms of tools for gathering performance feedback. Especially, I would like you to use them a little bit more now during COVID when you don't have face-to-face interactions. You know, you need to have very thorough follow-up. You need reports if there are any reports to be submitted. You need to evaluate from time to time, not just at the end of the year, and you need to coach people more. You need to be able to tell teams that you need to coach more and more. So did you know more than 43% of employees of several organizations are now working remotely, at least some part of their job role, at least 43%. Hence, it is important in today's scenario to improve employees' performance. An organization should also provide adequate support to work individually. Okay. So that marks the end of our webinar today. I'd like to open it to questions and answers, suggestions. Was it helpful? Did you learn something? Are there tools that you would like to take back to your organization to be able to? Do you think there are practical things that you can take back? Before I hand over to Dan. Questions, answers, chat groups, anything? Oh, Milka has a question, a very good question. I work in a Christian organization where salary increment should be discussed. The mentality being that working there is a calling. How do I deal with this? It has resulted in poor performance. Yeah, faith-based organizations, yeah, they tend to, and I see the challenge where you're coming from in terms of okay, let me just throw a real bad saying into this question first for us, and all of us will attest to it. I keep saying from the head from the head of the organization to the lowest, they're all here to work, isn't it? And everybody needs to be remunerated for their effort. So what I would do if I were you, then I would actually start the discussions around equal work for equal pay, fair pay for the work done, and come up with a structure and a process that actually defines how the roles that we have in the organization need to be remunerated fairly and adequately if we can afford. Because, okay, how we remunerate follows many factors. Internal relativities, budgets, economics, you know, the kind of sector that we are in. So all those kind of things. But we need to start viewing our organizations as places where real work is being done and real remuneration has to take place. So those discussions have to start happening. So, and I can almost bet that maybe there is not a very clear structure in the organization. The job descriptions, why we need to pay motivates people, what are some of the benefits that we need to put in place. So because Rome was not built in a day, people should not hide behind that it's a faith-based organization, that it's a calling. Indeed, it could be a calling. Anything is a calling. Anywhere you are, you whatever path you've taken, is that for me, I believe that you're there for a season and for a reason, and you must work to the best of your ability, because even in the good Bible it says, work in the vine as if you will not be able to work tomorrow. So that is important. So even if it's a calling, yes, but the calling also needs to be remunerated, and it needs to be remunerated fairly. Otherwise, and then start building your data in terms of employee engagement, in terms of attrition and turnover rate, and give that data. Data informs where we are and where we want to go. I don't know when anybody else would want to add anything there. That's a good question. Thank you for asking it. Okay. Let's see any other question. Was it helpful before we drop off? Anybody else?
Hi, Catherine. I have a question. Regarding the fact that employee recognition plays into motivation and then in turn performance of employees. How would one now custom make it to fit the now new normal of COVID-19, so that employee recognition does not stick to the normal, present them with a present in front of everyone, because now physically people are no longer there. So that they can still feel recognized and appreciated in the organization.
Recognition right now will play a big role, and just being able to say, the leader coming and saying, well done, guys. You've really settled in well working from home. I know those are not your offices. Some is not as conducive as it's not as conducive as you would want it to be, but well done for real plugging in and taking the business to the next step every day. And this week I would like to recognize Anthony, because he went over and beyond his call of duty for having done XYZ. You get, and also putting in an emphasis, even when he was doing that, he still kept safe within the guidelines of COVID-19. please don't lose that message, because right now what we need is change of attitude around COVID, because people really need to hear that message. So you're the one who told us you have Monday meetings where you have a prayer day and stuff like that. Thursday. You as HR, see what someone has done over and beyond their call of duty and discuss it with their line manager and say, maybe you'd want whatever. It's more of motivating the rest of the people, but also recognizing that person. And if there is none, why don't you come and say, well, what are people, what should we be doing differently? What have you done differently around that, around this performance, around this KPI, sorry, that would take you to the next level? Anybody who has a suggestion, and throw it around so that even when they achieve it, you'll come and say, Catherine suggested it, she's actually actualized it, and we would like to recognize her. But every time, just for the fact that people are staying safe, it's a message enough to come and say, we are very happy that none of us maybe have been affected by COVID. We continue and appealing you to stay safe. Well done, guys. It's message enough. First message. That's what our CEO starts with, you know. And are you keeping everybody safe around you? Yes, you are. Are you changing? It's call for change of behavior. It is call of behavior. So people feel, well, it's good. And then we come and say, COVID now is at the workplace. What are we going to do if you have to go to the office? What will you be doing to get to the office? How are you going to be going to the office? Is it important for you to go? So just making sure that the communication channels are open. But when someone does over and above, the sales team has done very well, especially Anthony closed this big deal. You guess? So just those little milestones, but let's start from emphasizing our culture is one of caring, is one of whatever. It's one of staying safe right now. Please have that draft for your CEO, all of you. You know, let him remind people that, well, even if there's COVID, yes, unfortunately, one of us is affected and we are taking measures. They were very brave to come and say they went for the test. We are praying for them. We are wishing them well, but this is what he sees. That does not stop us from performing our job. That does not stop us from getting ahead and forging forward as a people, and we will continue the support. So things like that around.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Catherine, thank you so much for the information that you've relayed to us today. Especially, I would say my take home will be things like what type of trainings I'm supposed to look into during this period, the issue of also changing our JDs, trying to see also if our admin support staff can be able to reskill, probably even to think even beyond like tomorrow, what will happen tomorrow? Do we need to outsource these services in future? Also the issue of the SOPs, about cleaning of offices, if they are there, they need to be specific. If there are some roles that need to be phased out. So I would say thank you very much. I've learned a lot and I'm glad to be here.
Okay, you're most welcome. Thank you, Mercy. We have a question here. Maybe we can all help and chip in. Thanks for the question. There's a very bad culture in organization where staff never check their emails, whether it's an urgent issue or not. Any strategies to curb this? This is really, I see lots of people struggling with this. So I used to work in an organization where people didn't read their emails, and this is practically what the SMT did. Very frustrating, and you only read you don't read email. First email is a real strong way of communication. It's formal, it's tested, it's tried, and it's one of the ways that we communicate. So we keep saying that the best form of communication is face-to-face. You know, pick up the call and call someone and say, I'll follow it through with an email. But some organizations, email really also is one of the top ways of communication, like any other organization anyway. But what we did was to say emails must be replied to within 24 hours. Whether you will say It is noted, and I'm working on it and giving feedback. You will get the information by Friday. If not, there was an escalation. And if it was escalated 2 times, then there were consequences. And voila, things worked. Hard as it was, sometimes we need to put in consequences for some of these things. So we put in an SOP. First, we said the importance of it. What happens when you don't do that? Performance is hampered in the organization. Third, we put in a system of how it's going to be, and then consequences of what happened. I hope that you're able to take that and run with it again, but it's the culture in the organization. So let's try and change the culture, because culture just constitutes around behavior, attitudes, and beliefs of whatever we believe in. But again, if it's emails coming from the top and people are not responding, it's very difficult. And it's for you to go to your CEO and say, or MD or whatever you call them in your organization, and say, we have a problem here. And this is how it's impacting the business. And this is how it's causing staff to feel. So let's work on it. And since you're one of the culprits, I would want you to be successful in your role and let me help you to become successful. So those kind of words, sweeteners that you can help people in senior management know that you also care about them, but unawamulika lakini si kuwamulika directly, unawamulika ukiwasaidia. Okay, great. Okay, anybody else?
Catherine.
Yeah.
Sabrina.
Yeah.
I concur everything you've said. I just wanted to add, apart from the SWOPs, how I achieved it, especially with my small team.
Yeah.
Because you could go day 1, day 2, nobody has answered. Then in the meetings, that's when you would emphasize the importance of emails. Then you actually also inform them why it's important in the morning when they come.
Yeah.
They read their emails, they also leave it on, and then the consequences. Then with time they picked up, they got used to it.
It's true. Yeah. It becomes it becomes a culture that you're building in, in the meetings. Every opportunity you get, you start having those discussions. Very important. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, Anthony.
Just to chime into that. For us, the ICT department took the initiative to give refresher courses on email. So for us, we use G Suite. So they decided to have, it was a month, every Friday, there was a course about how to use G Suite and emails. So that did not only encourage people to use emails, but they learned something extra. For example, how to categorize their emails from which one is important to which one is not important, how to archive emails, how to sort their inbox and stuff like that. So, that's a value addition to the employees because they feel that they are learning something. And they get really into using the mode of communication. Yes.
Yeah. And anyway, you never know. I agree. Very, very. Thank you, Anthony. That people might not just be knowing how to use it. Maybe it's a gap that we have in the organization. This mode of communication that you tell us to use, and even how do we address each other? An organization, no matter how upset you are, you always start with dear Catherine, dear Anthony, regards Catherine. Don't just start with Catherine. What is that? No good morning, no things like that. You sound so upset. There's always ways of taming down the organization. I mean, be gentle with how you communicate. It also shows how you whatever. So one day when I got, because we are all humans and whatever, I sent invite to senior management an interview that was a senior position, and 2 people didn't read the emails. They didn't whatever. I ran the interviews without them. That's when people are mucked. I went to the town hall meeting and said, any email from HR takes priority over the CEO, and the CEO was there. You see an email from HR, any of my team from HR, you must read it. Otherwise, you lose an opportunity, and the opportunities have been lost. Sounds rude, sounds stun, very stun. It was very stun, but yeah. So consequences. You don't want to lose a director's job because you did not read your emails, or you just think that because it came from second level manager, that you think that you can't be addressed by a manager. That's when is that when the young people say utajua ujui? That's what my children tell me. Mami utajua ujui, mbio mbaya, mbio mbaya. What are those that they tell me? Yeah, so
And maybe
yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Catherine, if I
Milka.
can contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to contribute about that. Sometime back in our organization, we had that problem. And we realized it's a reaction of something else. So that employees don't have a forum to hit management. And that would be another way that being Christians, that is the only way they will fight the organization. They will not carry placards, they will not do anything, but that is what they would do. And again, some people felt that it was a way of transferring problems. When I feel that I'm running out of time and my targets cannot be achieved, I will hurriedly throw emails left, right, and center so that I transfer that problem to somebody else. And so most people avoided reading mails from certain people. And some mails were also intimidating. You find somebody sending you an email in the middle of the night and they require a response in the morning. Really. So it even caused problems to some families where I know of a guy who had to separate with the wife, and the wife had to come to the office and say, take this laptop because I don't need it again in my house. So again, there are so many other things. There are underlying issues. When
engagement.
Staff are not, oh yes, when staff are not reading mails, it means the underlying issues which must be acted on.
You said where I said about integrity, trust, and performance go together. Where I said be gentle, be empathetic, be totally true to your culture. And I like that's you don't even have to do another the way we like to run surveys in HR, engagement surveys. That is in itself, you have data, and you have to let line managers know that sending emails at midnight and you expect a response at 7 o'clock in the morning, at least not from Catherine. You can't. And you can send your emails wherever time you want to send, really, but do not intimidate people. It's the same thing as because the CEO is going to the office, I must follow suit and I don't feel safe. It's the same. You see the consequences now of what it is. There'll always be consequences. Will you be willing to own your consequences? Some people don't. They just lit wildfire, like what Milka has said, lit wildfires and run with them. It is unfair. It is not good. Yeah. So let's have those discussions. When we see a pattern emerging, let's nip it at the bud before it becomes too much for us to deal with. Okay. Great. Thank you. I hope you're taking great takeaways from this webinar this morning. I've really learned a lot. I really appreciate. Before I return it back to Dan, over to you. Anybody else as Dan comes online?
In addition to what we've been talking about, because during this COVID, I just realized you had talked of face-to-face, then the relationship with your colleagues. You know, even the juniors, the subordinates, sometimes, like with emails, they may not reply because there's an assignment you've given, it's so hard, and yet you're not even approachable. Somebody will not reply. So it's good, go face to face, talk to them. I realized when I talked to them more during this period, they opened up and we ended up doing so many assignments together.
Exactly.
So up to now, they come and ask me, how do you do this Excel? How do you put this together? So we work it together and it becomes successful.
Exactly. There's never been a better time and urgent need for teamwork and collaboration than this during this COVID time. Yeah. So let's be endearing. Let's managers be endearing. That's the first thing that you tell them. Be approachable, change. You can learn to change your personality and be endearing to people. Okay. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for listening in. I hope you've carried something that you're able to take back to your teams and to your organization. Then thank you for giving me the opportunity to facilitate. I'm always grateful. I'm always learning. And over to you now. Thank you. Dan, please unmute. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Catherine, and everyone else.
Yeah, we can see you.
Yes, I would say thank you very much for conducting such a wonderful training on strategies for improving employee performance. I've sent via chat to every one of us details regarding our next trainings. They're there. If you check your chat box now, you'll be able to see that our next training will be leading with critical thinking, creativity and innovation on 8th August 2020, followed with another one on effective employee retention strategies on 22nd August. Then we have managing employee compensation on 5th September. And by the way, if you are studying for ACHRP, that training on employee compensation is will be very interesting for you and will be very helpful because we have that topic known as reward management. Reward management, managing employee compensation, the one are the same thing. Then there is number 4, values and ethics in business on 19th September. Then on 17th October, we shall have effective entrepreneurial skills. Again, if you are doing entrepreneurship and HR consultancy, that course, this topic, effective entrepreneurial skills, will come in handy. Now, if you click on that link there, you will be able to view the AHRM approval for CPD points. Again, that will come in handy. Our trainings, all of them, will be 2,500. And we'll adjust our training time, increase the amount of time to 4 p.m. That is from 10 to 4, to be in tandem with what AHRM requires. That is for training to earn 2 CPD. For a training to earn 2 CPD points, they say it has to be 6 hours. But we will see, we'll adjust as time goes by. So by and large, again, maybe I need to point out this. Our trainings are NITA reimbursable. I've had a training conducted as a webinar, yes, and I've had NITA asking whether we could share the webinar link so that they're able to log in and view the training together with whoever has applied for NITA participation. So when you see our trainings advertised, if you click on the link of each of the trainings, you'll be able to download the course brochure, the prospectus of that particular training, together with the AHRM approval for that particular training. Then if you require NITA approval, you need to have done that, to do that at least 7 days before the training program. I was talking to the director, NITA, and what they had to say was, 1, organizations risk losing last year's contribution if they do not apply for NITA reimbursement, because trainings are no longer happening physically. They're happening online, and they want to be in tandem or to be in line with what is happening. Having said that, let me say to all of you, thank you for coming and thank you for participating. Unless there is a question, I would say, kwaheri sana.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Masi. I can't see you, but thanks.
You will see me next time. You will see me next time.
Karibu sana, Masi.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Have a nice weekend. All of you, everyone.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Sabrina.
Yes.
Thank you.
You are well?
Okay, thanks.
Asante. Anthony.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Thank you. Jeffrey. Gideon. Paul. Christine. Linda.